Hello, everybody, and welcome to And That's Why We Drink. It is a true crime paranormal podcast, and it is hosted by two beautiful souls. I'm Christine.
Oh. I guess I'm the other beautiful soul.
Oh, no, sorry. I meant Geo, but I guess you could...
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I meant three. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. I meant three. It's hosted by three really wonderful, beautiful souls.
I feel like I feel like I can hear the sounds of swerving through traffic in my head, just
awkward.
trying to get to the end here.
Can you hear my sweat? Just like, oh no!
I was wondering if there was a leak in your house. Cause it was just puddling underneath you.
Well, speaking of a leak, okay, that's a terrible way to start a sentence.
What?
I gotta take it back. That's not
happening?
what I meant. What I meant was, speaking of, there is literally no Sagu here. That I don't know why I said it like that.
Are you well? What's happening?
I'm trying to force a conversation.
Let's have it.
Like
oh
you
my God! Wait, am I in trouble or is it?
No, I want to tell you about my fluffy coat.
Happily. Okay, look. I just like to know before I get into a conversation where how I should feel. You know?
Oh, don't worry. You would have received a text that said something like, "Smiley face. I'd like to talk to you today." Just kidding.
and then you would get an emoji of me running away in a gust of wind.
Oh my God. No, so I've been obsessed with fluffy things lately, and since we're getting an Arctic blast here in Cincinnati.
The hell is that?
Listen, I don't fucking know, but Google told me it, and apparently it's going to be in the below zeros here. So I've bought some fluffy stuff, and I'm super cozy and floofy, and I'm just, I'm trying to embrace it, live my life.
What is the difference between an Arctic blast and a bomb cyclone?
I'm glad you asked, because I have absolutely no idea.
I thought as much. But you know what? It's good to know. For those of you who don't know, we once got stuck in a bomb cyclone in Salt Lake City, didn't we?
A bomb cyclone! That word never fails.
Or not, was it Salt Lake City?
That's a bomb cyclone. That's what it was called. And we were just horrified, and our Uber driver kept saying, "Oh, it's a bomb cyclone, And we were like, what is that?
I was like, we're in an Uber. We don't live here.
You can tell we're from California, right?
Well, good luck with your Arctic chill or whatever you just said. But
it sounds like the name of a Mountain Dew drink, Arctic Blast. I think it actually is the name of a beverage.
It sounds like it would be a really nice, like a bright neon Crayola teal. Arctic. It's a Gatorade flavor or something.
That's what I'm thinking. You're right.
A glacier freeze. That's what you need to have next.
I'm going to have a glacier freeze outside, and that's why I wear these nice fluffy clothes.
Maybe by the end of February, there'll be a glacier freeze near you.
How are you? What do you drink and why?
I'm drinking for a few reasons. Nothing like really necessary. Like nothing big, but it's all the little things that just add up, and I'm just like, ugh, I'm so over this. I'm drinking tea from Coffee Bean because
that fits.
we know the traumatic story of Starbucks not bringing me London Fogs anymore.
Absolutely.
I'm drinking a 32 ounce because I felt like I deserved it by doing nothing, but I was like, you know what? This is my moment. My moment with the Coffee Bean.
My time to shine.
Why do I drink? Well, I have a personal disappointment in that I have been trying really hard to not bite my nails anymore, and then last night I really went to town on my thumb.
I don't think I knew that you bit your nails.
Oh, that's, to other people in my life, that would be shocking because...
I mean, like, I know you do that, but I didn't know it was something you, like, actively cared about.
Yeah, no, so ever since I was like a little kid, it's been really bad. Like it used to be like my fingers would be bleeding by the end of the day.
No.
Bad. And so I've been like, I'm going to not bite my nails anymore. And it was a really hard habit to break, just because I've been doing it my whole life. And I've been really, really good for like 2.5 months now. I like basically carry nail clippers with me all the time. And then like something happened where Allison was showering or I couldn't get to the nail clippers, and there was like one thing I kept getting stuck on. My nail kept like catching on things.
Yeah, I know.
I couldn't take it. And so last night I like bit my thumb all the way down to like the bone basically. And
the bone? Okay.
That's how it feels.
Let's not be dramatic.
If it doesn't feel good, every time my hand like catches the air, I can feel it. So.
Oh God.
So I'm drinking for that. Why else am I drinking? I'm sure there's other reasons.
There always are.
We'll find them along the way, rest assured. But we're going to start today with nails and see where it takes us. Also, I'm trying this thing. So if you're watching YouTube, you can see like a little situation sitting in front of me. So remember last time or two weeks ago where I was like, oh, I'm going to try to start soundproofing and audio treating on my end. That way, like, it doesn't sound like I'm in a cave because I'm in a big empty room with Trey Songz above me. So I got this thing. I did what I always do, and I misjudged the dimensions. If you know what I'm talking about, one time I wanted to get Christine like a little tiny Hot Wheels tractor, and I basically bought her a real John Deere tractor. And so I wanted to get
Amazon, by the way.
You know what? I had that big ass tractor for too long too, by the way. But so I got this. It was supposed to be like a little sound booth cube for you to just put your microphone in, so it's surrounded all on all ends.
Yeah.
But the thing is like way bigger than even the table that I sit my mic and my laptop in. I mean, this is the box. For those of you looking, this is the box. It's like
Jesus,
like holy crap big. And there was just no way I was going to be able to like finagle it. So I just took one of the foam panels and I'm trying to like cone it around my microphone. So as much of my mic is protected as possible. But it's just like a big foam square. So I'm actually using Allison's necklaces to weight it down. I'm trying to curve the foam thing around my mic. And on the bottom, she has like 2-pound weights. And so, like, I have them, like, kind of pressed into, like, I'm trying to do what I can with what I've got here, but, hopefully the audio sounds better this time. At least one side of it is protected, so.
So, I don't know anything about it, but it sounds good to me.
Anyway, I drink because I have only 9 nails, and also I, am not a professional in terms of sound quality. Why do you drink, Christine?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, first of all, I'm drinking this lovely. I received this in my little Warner Brothers gift package they mailed me about that Natalie Morales show. And it's a little Stumptown cold brew coffee with oat milk horchata. And I was like, wow, I can really live my LA lifestyle over here in Kentucky.
I was going to say, they don't have that in LA?
They have that in LA for sure.
Or sorry, they don't have it outside of LA?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really leave my house here, so I haven't been able to explore very much. There are definitely some coffee shops near here, but I haven't really delved into their wares. They mostly they're mostly have those pickup windows where you can walk up and. But the problem is, so I this was in the box and I was like, cute. So I took it a couple days, opened the box, saw this. And then I read on the back, like, keep refrigerated. And I went, well, it certainly hasn't been refrigerated since however long they had it in this box. So I've refrigerated it since, but I'm going to drink it. And if it's terrible, I brought my Carvana car cup just in case for emergencies. Because it's not wine time yet.
If you fall over, finally there's, like, a potential that I'm not the one that murdered you. It could have just been, like,
finally, unless
another product.
Unless you were somehow involved in this Warner Brothers Natalie Morales situation, which I wouldn't put past you.
Unless I work at Stumpton and like injected that box of coffee alone with something. But
anyway, so it's actually pretty good.
Oh,
I think it's fine.
That's how I wanted it to taste.
I think it's fine. So anyway, that's currently why I drink. It's not wine time yet, so I'm sure I'll be drinking later. But I have the weirdest reason ever why I drink, which is I don't even really know how to start this because
oh god, what?
It's just I've been thinking about it nonstop since Blaze told me. So I've been with Blaze for probably like I don't know, 7 or 8 years at this point.
A million minimum.
Many lifetimes. And you know, you get to a point where you're like, oh, I feel like I know pretty much everything. Like we know everything about each other. I mean, you know, I love to sprinkle in fun facts every now and then about things that I forgot existed. And
sprinkle in fun facts or pepper in information about how he might be murdered one day and he'll never see it coming.
Yes, right. Okay, fine. All right. Maybe I like to aggressively force really, really questionable facts about my past into our relationship. That's fair. But like I don't know. I feel like I know Blaze's family really well. Like I know all his friends growing up and stuff. And the other day I was falling asleep. It was like 1 a.m, and all of a sudden I don't know how we got on this topic, but Blaze brought up a teacher of his from elementary school, and I was like, okay. Blaze was like, he was such a weirdo, and I was like, oh, okay, I don't know. And I was trying to fall asleep. And I was like, oh, why? And Blaze went into this fucking story about this teacher he had where I was like, I thought I was the only one with like a really fever dream, like elementary school experience. Blaze was telling me, I don't think I've laughed so hard in my whole life. He was telling me about this teacher, and then he kind of paused and he's like, oh, and one time he took me to a Beanie Baby auction. And I was like, wait, okay. So I turned the lights back on. And
was his name Bernard? Or what?
That's true. My dad literally still has a laundry basket full of Beanie Babies somewhere in his house.
Oh my gosh.
But he's like, yeah, he took me to, and I was like, wait, what do you mean? And he was like, well, it was a prize. And I was like, okay, I'm going to turn the lights on and make you tell me this whole story because I don't like that we're just glossing over it.
I like how you're like, I need the lights on so I can look around and make sure that I am in a real environment and not my own headspace.
I'm not lucid dreaming, right? So I was like, can you tell me what the hell you're talking about? And at this point, I'm like fascinated. And he tells me this story about how his teacher like had this. Well, one time his teacher, it started because he said his teacher threw a Valentine's at him one time. His mom had brought all these beautiful homemade Valentines, Pokemon Valentines, and his teacher just like threw them at him. And I was like, that sounds like a very Christine memory. But then he's like, yeah, he also took me to a Beanie Baby auction. And I said, what does that mean? Please tell me. And he said, well, it was a prize because I guess if he was like the cool teacher, and I guess if you were the citizen of the month, which is what the school called like student of the month, which I certainly never was,
no.
He was like, then you got to go with I don't want to say his name, with Mr. Blank, Mr. Smith, let's call him.
Mr. Beanie Baby Man.
Mr. Beanie Baby. Mr. Schieffer. I mean, hold on. Mr. Smith to the Beanie Baby auction. And I was like, why? And he's like, because he was obsessed with Beanie Babies and he was convinced he was going to become a multimillionaire. So he collected them. And I said, so like, was it a class trip? And he's like, no, he would just take one student at a time. And I was like, okay, this is starting to sound really questionable. And he goes, well, his wife was there. And I was like, his wife was there? And it turns out like Blaze, and he's like, he phrased it as if it were a recovered memory. He was like, wow, yeah, it really was a strange experience. My mom just dropped me off. He drove me to this auction outside of a Christmas tree store. And it was in the parking lot. It was freezing out. And they started auctioning off Beanie Babies. And his wife was there. It was just me. And at the end, he got to take home a Beanie Baby. I don't know.
The 90s were a weird time because
no boundaries.
The fact that your mother, your mother-in-law, who I've met and is like pretty sharp.
Oh yeah.
Was just like, oh well, yeah, have fun. Bye.
No, I was like, I thought only Renata did shit like that. But so Blaze texted her because he's like, I need you to understand that this was real. So he included me in a group text with his parents, and his mom was like, yeah, looking back, that was like a really weird time. And Blaze and I were like, you know what? As the oldest, I feel like we sacrifice a lot because then our younger siblings don't have to go to Beanie Baby auctions in the cold with their male teacher. Anyway, I can't stop thinking about it. That's all. That's the end.
No, it'll never be the end now because a lot of people are gonna have a lot of opinions. But I want to say I'm surprised after everything you've ever told me. I'm just like another drop in the bucket. But it's weird. It is weird. It's also weird that Blaze, the person who I expect the least to be put in that situation.
Yeah, the only stable person in our multi-relationship dynamic.
The fact that even he was saying it like it was normal is the odd part, where usually he would say something like that and be like, usually he'd be like, this is weird. But the fact that he was just saying it and then over time was like, why are you turning the lights on? Why do you think this is a fever dream?
Why are you calling the authorities, Christine? Yeah, I think that's why, because I feel like I do that a lot, and people are like, Christine, are you hearing what you're saying? But then I got to be the person who said, Blaze, are you hearing what you're saying? This is so creepy and strange. And also, what Beanie Baby did you get? And then he was like, that's the worst part. I didn't even get like a cool Beanie Baby. He gave me like some generic one that wasn't ever going to make me rich and famous.
Not to make it about me, but it feels a lot like the Musk situation where all I wanted was my fucking steak. And then the worst part of it all was at the end, after this really weird experience where I was all alone, where Blaze's mom apparently dropped me off, there was no steak at the end. So.
And, I mean, after all that, I was like, I bet you never wanted to be Citizen of the Month ever again, because what a terrible prize, you know?
Yeah. Well, at our school, it was if you were the winner, or not the winner, but like the student of the month or whatever, you got to, I don't know if people still do this, but when you would have to line up and someone was like the head of the train, someone was the caboose, No? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Like, it was like if you were student of the month, you got to be the caboose, which was at the very back of the line. And I was like,
LOL.
that feels not
Are
right.
you sure that's not what they just told you to make you feel better?
That would check out, because I certainly didn't deserve student of the month ever. I deserved the caboose.
I mean, that's better. I feel like if you're student of the month and you're in the front of the line, everyone just like rolls their eyes at you. I guess if you're in the back, maybe you're like cooler.
So we used to have, actually, I would love to find this video. It's got to be somewhere in my basement. But there was one thing in first grade where every month there was only 18 students in the class. But there was this one thing called Special Person of the Month or whatever. And you got to bring your parents in, bring in your favorite toys, bring in like a bunch of your favorite stuff. And there would, like, once every... I guess it was a month. That doesn't make sense, though, because there weren't 18 months of first grade for me, shockingly.
Well, maybe not everybody got the month.
No, everyone got a turn. So maybe it was, like, Special Person of the Week.
We did that in elementary school, where you brought in a poster about said about me.
You got to do a presentation on yourself. It was really fun for the Geminis.
That's like I was going to say, that's our fucking jam, man.
This is, officially, we've done a Special Person of 4 years now.
We've
it's called the
forced
podcast.
ourselves. It's only the two of us, because every month we get to be the Special Person of the Month and bring our parents in. Yeah.
Well, it was, and so you would sit up there, your parents would come in, and then you would do a presentation on yourself, and everyone was assigned a question to ask you. So by the end of the experience, everyone had gotten a chance to ask you a question about yourself. You would answer it, and you would bring in like your favorite snacks, your favorite toys. You would explain everything. Your parents would tell their favorite stories about you, and then everyone would sing "Getting to Know You," and that was Special Person Day. And then until the next Special Person presentation, you were the caboose of every line every time you went to field trips and
Okay,
shit.
that's sweet. I didn't really speak English in first grade, so I just showed up with a poster about myself, and everyone, I remember we had the same thing. I'm actually getting really upset now. I have a stomachache already, because I remember that I brought my poster in and I was trying to talk about myself, and they had to do like the questions, and the first person asked, "Why are you so weird?" And then everybody laughed, and so that was my memory of being the person of the month.
That's why they were assigned questions. We all had a popsicle stick with a question on it, and so the teacher would like had a can of popsicle sticks, and you would pull one before the presentation. That way, nothing like that could happen. Our teachers were
a little bit crueler and thought it was hilarious. And someone said, "Why do you sound so funny?" And I was like, "Fuck off." Actually, I wasn't. I just was quiet, and then I cried.
You should have like said a little German curse on them, and
I should have hexed them. Do you know what hex means in German? The word. A witch. Eine Hexe means a witch.
Checks out.
I know, isn't that fun?
It hex out.
I don't get it.
Hex.
Oh my god.
Moving on quickly.
I had a fun fact, and Em had to turn it into a bad pun. I'm just saying.
I didn't know that, but it makes sense, because hexes and witches, like, the words are always put together. Mm-hmm. Also, another fun fact, did you know what Pokemon means? Because I just found this out.
Yeah, I found this out once on a podcast, actually.
Was it this podcast? Am I saying it again?
I'm a time traveler. I forget, though. I always
Pocket monsters.
Yeah, that's right. It was Pikachu that I learned what it meant. Apparently, Pika is like mouse.
Ah.
I think
What's
in
chew
Japanese,
mean?
I think like it's like a mouse sneezing. Am I making that up?
I don't know. Look, I just found out what Pokemon means, but it blew me away. I was like, how on earth did I not put that together in my head?
I knew that, because in other languages they're called pocket monsters.
Well,
Pikachu means sparkle mouse noise, which is why he goes like Pika.
That's precious.
Isn't
and
that
Sparkle, because he's like a lightning Pokemon, maybe?
Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah.
That's fun.
Anyway, sorry, this got off the rails as usual, but welcome to our show. Em tells a ghost story or a creepy story. I tell a creepy story that's about murder. So welcome to the show, and I guess, shall we begin?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. We have an announcement. We're doing a live show. Em always gets mad at me, like, oh, Christine's delaying the show. But, like, this is important.
When did I get mad about that?
You went...
Oh, because you were the one ironically talking about how we keep derailing, and then you, like...
Well, because neither of us brought up the live show we're doing.
Well, we are doing a live show February 26th. It's a virtual live show. $10 a ticket, and it's going to be... we're having listener stories submitted, and if you would like your chance at your story being read during the virtual live show, you can send them to ATWWD from our couches at gmail.com?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
And what's the link? I don't remember. Oh, well. Do you know?
Nope. But we'll post it on we're going to kind of try to social media blast it. So you will
Maybe
you will
Eva
see
can
it.
put it in the chat here. And if she types it in the chat, then I'll just say it whenever it shows up.
Yes. And then if it doesn't show, we have and that's why we drink. It'll be like in our bios on our social media.
Oh, yeah, it'll be social media and on our website too. But yeah, we're really excited. We haven't done one in a while. It'll be our first of the year. We're super excited. The last couple have been really fun, and we really like picking, the scariest stories we get. Oh, okay, here it comes. onlocationlive.com/ATWWD. Thanks, Eva.
There you go. But yes, please come. It'll be fun. We are going to be live reacting to the stories, so we will all be
Eva finding. You got it.
We will be finding out what these stories are about all together. So
yes, it'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
And there's a Q&A like during the intermission and stuff. It'll be fun.
Love a good intermission. Yeah, so please come. We're very excited about it. And what day does this come out? Oh, no, it's still very early in February. Oh my goodness. Okay, never mind then. Not that anything is being announced. Here's what I was going to say. I'm currently working on the new escape room. So sometime in March that's going to be ready. And I was going to say something about it if this comes out in March, but it absolutely isn't because it is so early in February. Anyway, be on the lookout for an escape room. Christine, I used to think of my skin goals as unattainable. Some days I had really oily skin. Some days I had really dry skin. But luckily, we are working with Curology, and it's just been such a delight, and it's become so easy and part of my routine.
So whether you're trying to take control of acne, or if acne isn't your concern, and like me, you're worried about fine lines, dark spots, breakouts, clogged pores, dry skin, I'm just adding things now because I have a long list. Curology will customize a prescription formula with 3 active ingredients picked just for you to tackle your skincare needs. So for example, I have a very big fear of my dry skin and wrinkles and fine lines on top of hormonal acne, which seems to be a fun thing that's back in my life. So I use Curology. It's great. They match you with a licensed dermatology provider who gets to know your skin, and then they mail it to you, and you can use it and look how beautiful and glowing we are. Take control of acne, dark spots, breakouts, or whatever your unique concerns may be with a powerful skincare treatment made just for you today. Go to Curology.com/drink for a free 30-day trial. Just pay for shipping and handling.
That's CUROLOGY.com/drink to unlock your free 30-day trial. See Curology.com for all the details. Friends don't let friends live with anything less than amazing hair, which is why I yell at Christine every single day that her hair is perfect and she better know about it. And the only reason it's perfect and the only reason my hair is perfect is because we use Function of Beauty.
It's true. Emmy used to scream at me about my bald spot and all sorts of fun stuff. But now I have Function of Beauty. And by the way, I smell lovely like pear. Sometimes I buy the peach scent, but the pear is also amazing. Just fun fact. Here's how to get started. You take a quick but thorough quiz. You tell them about your hair type, your hair goals, like whether you want to lengthen, which I do, volumize, which I do, oil control, which I do. Wow, they really hit the nail on the head. And you can change your hair goals. They ship it to you. You can go fragrance and dye free. And they determine the perfect blend of ingredients for you. They have over 50,000 5-star reviews. And like Em loves to say, there are over 54 trillion possible formulations. So like you'll have something unique.
Never buy off the shelf just to be disappointed ever again. Go to functionofbeauty.com/drink to take your quiz and save 20% on your order.
That applies to their full range of customized hair, skin, and body products. Go to functionofbeauty.com/drink to let them know we sent you and to get 20% off your order. functionofbeauty.com/drink.
Here's my story. Let's just try to do this. So here's my story. This is the story of the Bettis House in Quitman, Arkansas.
Ooh.
This is also known sometimes as the legend of the dog boy, but I feel like that's leading. That's because my thought is that the dog boy becomes like a main character here, and I feel like what's the opposite of burying a lead? Like
unearthing a lead?
Yeah, I feel like it makes it sound a lot more spectacular if I go with the dog boy.
Oh, you're saying like
sentence.
it's a misleading title. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Got it.
Misleading instead of burying the lead. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. But here's the story of the Bettis House featuring the dog boy. So it's in Quitman, Arkansas. It is which fun fact, was a major trading center until 1870. It's also an important halfway point to get from like from Tennessee to Arkansas. It's a big like travel area. It's heavily populated. And especially during the Civil War, it was a place where a lot of folks enlisted for the army. So there's a lot of soldiers in the area. And Arkansas, I did want to throw in like a little fun extra paranormal story before I talk about the Bettis House, just because it's super quick. But apparently in the same area, there is a vanishing hitchhiker everyone knows about, where I guess the story goes that a man was driving to Little Rock and he saw in the middle of the night this girl sitting on the side of the road, and she had like a cut on her eye and her dress looked kind of fucked up, and he pulled us over to ask if she was okay, and she said she had been in an accident, if he could drive her home. And so he gets to the address that she gives him, knocked on the door, and like a man opened the door and he said, "Hey, there's this girl that's in my car, and so she lives here. She's been in an accident." And the guy that lives there will say like, "Oh no, that's my daughter. She died in an accident years ago." And it's pretty common that she will show up for people in the middle of the night and ask them to be driven home.
That's so spooky. Can you imagine like being that family though, and like every time the doorbell rings at night, you're like, now I have to talk about my daughter's death again? Like that must just be so traumatic to every single time have to explain to people like it's not real, she's not alive.
It would also be, in like the most silver lining of ways, really comforting to be like, oh yeah, she's still fucking around, she's still hanging out,
but she's like still traumatized on the side of the road, you know, like reliving it over and over again.
Yeah, luckily we don't have to experience that, but I think it'd be comforting at least 1% to be like, oh yeah, she's still out there, she's still hanging out. So anyway, a lot of people experience this girl, and so nowadays he's like, oh yeah, no, just go back to your car, you'll see she's not in the car anymore, she's vanished at this point. But so people have, if you see a little girl and you're near Little Rock, Arkansas, and it's midnight, might be a ghost. So I just wanted to throw that out there before I got into the real story here. So Quitman, Arkansas, it has the legend of the dog boy, but apparently there's another there's another story called the dog-faced boy, which this is not. Oh. Apparently people mix them up.
Not to be confused with.
Dog boy, not to be confused with the famed dog-faced boy.
Of course, apparently, very different.
Dog-faced boys in Russia. Fun fact.
Oh, so like completely different.
Not even a little bit nearby.
Got it, okay.
So, they call him Dog Boy, at least nowadays, because folks will say that they see the silhouette of a 300-pound dog-man hybrid with glowing eyes.
Oh, and they call it a cute boy instead of like a 300 dog-man hybrid with glowing eyes. They say, oh, just a little dog boy.
It's just shorter. It's just shorter to say dog boy, you know?
I guess.
So he apparently will look out the windows and he will chase people down. There's a few reports saying that he'll chase people down trying to bite at your heels, like they're a dog, more dog than man. It makes me wonder like which part is dog and which part is man in terms of the hybrid combo here. Like, is it a Christine body with a Geo head, or is it a Christine head on a Geo body?
Both are equally not great predators, so I'm not sure which would be more effective.
They're both very good at eating popcorn. That's what I've got to say.
That's about where the line is drawn. Yep.
So the house that folks see him in was originally called the Garrett House. I don't know why, and I don't know when it changed, but or I do know when it changed. I don't know why it was originally called the Garrett House, though, and now it is called the Bettis House, which is on 65 Mulberry Street. And the house was originally built in 1890 in Claiborne County, which is in downtown Quitman, and it's said to have the dog boy and also additional ghosts in the house, so peppered in with extra fun, as I like to say. If I were a realtor trying to sell this house. Peppered in with extra fun, with surprises down the road. So next to this house is a longtime neighbor who has helped give a lot of information about the families over time. So most of our info that we can get about the Bettis house has somehow been circulated through this neighbor. So it could really just be like a Desperate Housewives neighbor who's just like has nothing but time to make up shit. But if this happened to be all real, they're basically like a free archivist for the neighborhood.
Oh, love it. Love it.
So it's up to you what you believe. Maybe you believe in the 300-pound dog man hybrid. Maybe you believe that the neighbor is bored.
Both. I believe both. Is that possible?
When it was known as the Garrett House, the Jackson family lived there, which is why I don't know why it's not called the Jackson House.
Interesting.
I would have thought the family were the Garretts, but whatever. So the Jackson family lived there when it was the Garrett House. And in the Jackson family, the husband's name was Ben Jackson. His wife had died at 28. And then their son, who ended up becoming like a World War I vet, he also died at 21. I think both of them died in the house. So both of their spirits are known to haunt the building now. And I'm assuming there's probably some story out there that, and then Ben Jackson died and now he haunts the house with his wife and son. So there's a family of ghosts.
And then their dog man hybrid died and also haunts the house.
Yep. You know what? You nailed it. Ben actually was a werewolf and now he's a ghost. He's half and half. He's just could never figure it out. So in the 1950s, after they died, the Bettis family moved in, which is when the house became the Bettis House.
Got it.
And this is the 1950s. So Floyd and Aileen Bettis, they moved in, and 4 years into living there, I think, they had their son named Gerald. And some people, or some sources, also call him like Gerald or Jarrell. It's like with a J. But the one that people most know is Gerald, like from Hey Arnold.
Got it.
And so he was born in 1954. And I guess right off the bat, he was a really difficult kid. Not only did he have issues at school with like having a hard time learning, or he was getting bullied or whatever, but according to neighbors, maybe this one very loud neighbor, quote, his parents were good people, but Gerald was a brat, vicious, and cruel.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Okay.
He was never student of the month, I'll tell you that much.
He deserved the caboose before anyone, except not in the special person way.
He definitely deserved no Beanie Babies.
Certainly not. Apparently he had some really weird behaviors, including collecting cats and dogs, which
I don't love the phrasing of that.
So when I heard collecting cats and dogs, I was like, okay, Gerald, you and everyone else in the 21st century, you're not special. Like, everyone's got a million cats and dogs. Which, by the way, is what led him to the name Dog Boy, because apparently...
he's Dog Boy!
Because he was primarily collecting dogs.
Can we clarify, like, collecting dogs, like, in an okay way or, like, in a murderous way? What? Why are you doing that face?
Because collecting means catching and torturing.
Fuck!
So, and that's as far as we go there, just so you know.
Thank God.
So one neighbor claims that I'm confused about this because I don't know if they mean Gerald himself once he was an adult or Gerald's parents did this favor for him or something, but at some point an addition was built onto the house and the rumor circulated that they were building room so they could fit more animals in the house.
Okay, all right. That makes sense.
Which, like, Christine would build an addition on her house for 1 million more geos, like, to be clear.
But
that's
not
like
for nefarious purposes, to be
right.
clear.
Well, the nefarious purposes would be so you would have more souls to drink wine with and watch Ghost Adventures at night.
I just need a lot of attention, okay?
It would be just for the socializing of it all. So he apparently also really liked attention, which, like, okay, no surprise.
Can't fault him for that.
Yeah, and also can't relate, LOL.
LOL, not at all.
Apparently, during a family reunion, Gerald once laid across a couch in front of everyone and fed himself grapes, which, like, sounds like...
You and I both have done that, and I'm not even going to ask because I know you have, and I know I have.
That's what I did at my special person presentation.
Yeah.
I was like, ask me questions about myself now.
Oh my God.
So this really does sound like it could have been us if we took a really dark turn. Like, it's just here we are, talk about me. I'm going to feed myself grapes and build an addition on my house for my dogs.
That,
And then,
like, that much, period, end of the story, is definitely us, for sure.
checks out. So, unfortunately, eventually the abuse from the animals carried over to his folks, and as he got older, he was in control of his family. So, here's a quote, I think from the neighbor. He kept his parents virtually imprisoned upstairs. He would feed them only when he decided it was time to eat.
Oh.
By the time he was an adult, he was 6'4", 300 pounds, just like the dog boy. And Gerald was known for beating up his father and once even threw him out of an upstairs window when he was in his 70s.
Oh my God.
The dad was in his 70s.
Jeez.
Apparently, there was one particular time where Floyd, in his 70s, got thrown out the window and had to hang onto the ledge until the police showed up.
Was the neighbor just, like, taking notes this whole time? Because I'm like, what is this nosy neighbor doing?
That makes me think it's a very desperate house. It's like, oh, just sitting on the porch drinking my tea, watching him get thrown out the window again.
Just, like, also, taking some notes.
The upper body strength. Like, I am 28, and if someone threw me out the window, I'd be like, guess I'm hitting the ground.
Just
like,
wave on your way down, yeah. There's no grabbing onto anything.
There's no chance. I wouldn't even try. If I saw a ledge, I wouldn't even grab it. I would just be like, what's the point? It's just gonna...
Just wave at the ledge. Just keep going.
It's just gonna make this process take longer.
Might as well. The inevitable, yeah.
So in 1981, Floyd, the dad... died from, quote, illness at home, which is pretty vague, but locals say he was probably pushed down the stairs and broke his neck or something along those lines.
My God.
They assume that Gerald had something to do with this.
Okay.
Just because he was getting abused left and right anyway, and then it was such a vague explanation for his death. So a neighbor said this about Gerald, said that if you had ever seen his eyes, they seemed to glow at night. So this is kind of the beginning of rumors of, oh, he's already known as Dog Boy and his eyes seem to glow at night. So we can see where this is leading. They seem to glow at night. One time he came over here and got onto us because we had trimmed a magnolia tree that overlapped into his backyard. And when they started cleaning that house up after Floyd died, one of his uncles even came to my house to borrow a gun because he was afraid that his nephew Gerald would get riled up during it.
Jesus.
So his whole family's terrified of him, and the neighbors know about it. And probably the neighbors were, like, threatened into silence or felt nervous or something. So he's basically in charge of the neighborhood at this point. So after Floyd's death, Gerald's mom, Aileen, she fell and broke her hip, so she went to the hospital. And apparently, while at the hospital, another neighbor who happened to be a nurse at that hospital could report that she witnessed Gerald visiting her in the hospital and, quote, slapping her around and telling her, I'm going to have you arrested if you tell anyone what I did.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
We never find out what it is that he did, but I think we're assuming it's that he killed Floyd, his dad. So not long after, Aileen was put into adult protective services because I guess the nurse was able to finally get her help. So she got away from Gerald, and once she was gone, he got arrested because he built a grow room in his house, and so he had, like, a bunch of pot everywhere. Got arrested, went to prison, and in the 80s, while in prison, he died at 34 of a drug overdose.
My goodness.
And his mom was still alive until 1995. The niece inherited the Bettis house, but soon it was sold to a truck driver named Tony and his wife.
Okay. Wow. Whoa. What a roller coaster, man.
Yeah. So that's the history of the Bettis house. So Big Tony got the house afterwards. And there is apparently, this is precious, there's an organization, I hope it's still around, it probably is. There was an organization in Arkansas called Central Arkansas Society for Paranormal Research, aka Casper.
Love that.
Is that not so fun?
So cute.
So fun. So cute.
So
Oh my gosh. Arkansas, if you're listening, I would like to join Casper as an honorary member.
Me too.
Let me know. And so the founder's name is Karen Schilling. So Miss Karen, if you're listening, hi.
Miss Karen of Casper. I'd love to join too.
Casper's Karen. So Karen says that the Weavers pretty much right away experienced a lot of activity. And she ended up knowing them because Tony and his wife saw an ad for Casper in the paper, old school Arkansas.
Love it.
And they called Karen for help because they were like, there's too much shit going on in this house. At first, the Weavers would notice that the lights were turning off. They would go to work, turn the lights off before they left, and when they came home, every single light was on, and soon the activity got stronger.
I hate that it builds like that. That always freaks me out, like it's gathering energy over time.
It's almost like it's trying to see what it can get away with, and then once it's not that you're necessarily giving it positive or negative energy, but because you don't seem to care, you're not forcing it out, and so it can build on itself.
Or sometimes I think, what if you're afraid because you're already freaked out by the lights, and then it like feeds off of that, you know what I mean, like feeds off your like energy of being afraid. That's what I would guess. I don't know though, because
it's probably a little bit of both.
All sounds terrible.
I don't like the things growing out of my skin right now. They're called what are they called? Fucking goose can, man.
What are they called?
All the little hills building on my arms.
Ew.
So at first, this is a quote from Karen about one of the experiences the Weavers had. One time, this is probably the weirdest too, and I love when I hear something original finally. So I got to give this ghost credit for creativity. One time, pennies floated down the stairwell from the upstairs of the house, and the coins stopped and fell to the floor all at once right in front of her. So it's like someone was holding like two little coins, and they were invisible, and they got to the bottom of the stairs and then went boop and just like dropped them.
That's so like freaky. Like it's like seems harmless, but also is so terrifying.
Well, the freaky part is whether or not an alive or dead person was doing that with the coins.
Yeah,
no matter what, it makes no sense.
It's just creepy because like, what does it even mean? Yeah.
Yeah, if it were like, even if it were something like a newspaper or something, it would be like, okay, so maybe there's an invisible ghost reading the paper, but it's like two random coins floating around together.
Or like a plate gets shoved off the table. It's like, okay, classic move, ghost. But
yeah.
Like, that's such a specific set of items.
I don't know. I wonder if it has to do with like the material of it. Like maybe because it's like, maybe if they were copper or something. I don't know.
Maybe he's like, here's my 2 cents. I'm M and I love puns.
Stop it. That's hysterical. That's actually...
that's hysterical.
I want that to be the reason, actually. That it would have something to do with me. But no, isn't that how dowsing rods work? Aren't they made of copper or something? I don't know.
I don't know, but I know pennies are made of zinc, so I'm not sure if that's...
Didn't they used to be copper until
Probably.
the 50s or something?
Yeah, probably.
I'm asking a lot of questions about things.
Copper pennies are definitely a thing, but I think most of the time they're zinc.
Well, I'm asking a lot of information from you about things nobody
that I don't
for,
have any
so.
idea about. Yeah, I don't. I'm just answering as if I know.
I appreciate the confidence, though. At least it felt like you knew where this was going all along. So anyway, so the pennies floating around on the stairs is super creepy, and then Tony, Big Tony himself. Tony, their last name I'm saying is Weaver. It's actually Chocolonely. This is one of his experiences. Excuse me. One day I was working on the house and I saw a man looking through the foyer into the living room. He looked like a World War I soldier, complete with a helmet. He looked so real, and when he walked into my living room, I ran after him, but no one ended up being there. So we think that this World War I soldier is probably the son from the Jackson family, who was a World War I vet.
The first family, right?
The first family.
Okay.
So at this point so far, we're thinking like, okay, maybe it's just the Jackson family haunting the place, and it hasn't even really processed that this could be like the Bettis family and Gerald.
Right.
So Tony also reported, this is where Gerald Betis likes to show himself. Tony also started reporting a dog humanoid creature in the windows.
Ugh, goose can.
But he also thought he must be imagining it, because he was like, that literally makes no fucking sense.
Sure.
So within 6 months of living there, activity had actually escalated so much, and to a point where the Weavers didn't even want to live there anymore. So in 2003, they ended up selling the house to eventually, I think actually the neighbor that I've been talking about, the Desperate Housewives
Yeah.
neighbor, I think she hooked up her nephew with the Weavers, and the nephew ended up getting this house. Which makes me think that, like, maybe none of this happened at all until all of a sudden the neighbor was like, oh, my nephew's going to move in. What if I told him some silly stories about the house's past?
Mm-hmm. I
would do that. If my nephew was going to get a house next to me and there was a bunch of families who lived there before that I knew about, I would just be like, oh, yeah, I've known about that house for a long time. You don't even want to know what they fucking
You're
seen.
such a jerk.
And so, I mean, like, for all we know, this, like, 2003 is, like, when the stories started.
I would not do that. I'd be like, oh, sorry, nephew, there's no houses anywhere near me, and I'm not responsible for you. Please move somewhere far away.
So, apparently the nephew's name was Quentin White, and his wife, Stephanie, were the two who moved in. Next to silly old aunt neighbor. And Quentin immediately actually started reporting activity too, saying, this is also creative, strange things would happen on a regular basis, like the toilet would flush on its own.
No, that's odd.
So that's fun. Also, I used youth slang to stay with the times for today's listeners, but what he actually said was the commode would flush on its own.
Ooh, that's fancy.
We should bring back the word commode. But I did also, word. I just kept that from happening before I went
That's
back.
why I was like, you should have leaned into it.
Okay, I was about to do like a really old-timey accent, but then I remembered I don't know how to do one.
Don't do that. For my sake, please.
The commode would flush on its own.
Okay.
They also heard chairs dragging through the house, and some say that Gerald, like Dog Boy himself, was seen screaming at them to get out. Oh. So I wonder if that means like you saw him from afar, like how the previous family said, or if now this ghost is getting more comfortable and like truly running up to you and saying, get out.
Because earlier he was outside, right? And so now they're saying he's inside screaming at them to get out? Or
something like that. It was either he was outside or they were outside and saw him in the windows, or but then they also saw like the World War I vet, so maybe that is who was saying get out. I don't know, but they're seeing a man say get out of my house and then vanish.
Oh, okay.
So one day Quentin was actually on the phone, and he was on the phone with his wife, and he heard a crash upstairs. He went upstairs to a room to check on the noise, and in this room he happened to have left a bunch of 2x4s like in a pile on the floor. Mm-hmm. And when he got up there, in poltergeist fashion, they were all standing up straight all around the room.
That gives me such terrible creeps. Something about like moving objects into perfect formation is just the worst.
I also don't like that they were probably scattered across the room, and at some point, let's say like the ghost stopped doing its like magic, and all of them like clearly can't balance, probably like they just all crash at the same time.
Oh, how creepy would that be, dude? I hate it.
Like the fact that like you know that to keep one standing up, you need to keep your hand on it, and there's a bunch of them. It's like, do ghosts have a million hands, or are you controlling it from above, and then you just decide that you're going to leave the room and all of them come falling down at the same time? Anyway, no matter what it is, it's fucking creepy.
It's not
like,
good.
Because all we know is that he got up there and they were all standing up straight, but we don't find out how they stopped standing up straight.
Maybe they were just balanced so perfectly, like how you can balance, like, I don't know, a really thin object. If
well, then
careful.
I would still like to hear the ending where he had to go
around.
Like board by board and collect
That's true.
them.
Like somehow they ended up not being that way, I would imagine.
So
it'd be like dominoes, like around the circle. It'd be like fucking splinters galore.
I would like to think it's something extra eerie that like made him interact with the ghost, where like they all stood up straight by themselves until like he tried to start collecting them, and when he grabbed one, they all collapsed or something.
Yeah. Ugh.
Like it was like watching him. I don't know. I'm trying to make it scarier than it was, but it was already pretty fucking scary.
Yeah, I don't think that is needed, but yikes.
So the couple also would wake up every night to the sound of a dog nearby howling, but nobody knew how to dog. So I think they were ignoring it for a while, and then probably when they heard the rumor of Dog Boy, they were like, aha, that checks out. Let's stick with that story. So Tony tried forever to sell the house. He lived there for, or no, not Tony. Sorry, Quentin or whatever. They tried to sell the house.
Oh, well, I know someone's nephew who actually needs a house. So if you want me to hit them up, I get 10% commission, right?
Okay, for sure. Like, you know that you really sold him because you said that, like, it's just, there's peppered in a bunch of surprise layers.
That's right. I learned from the M School of Realty about how to phrase the
M School
things.
of Realty is either it's nature cozy or it's not fucking worth it.
Or it's not worth it.
Or it's not worth it.
Every house must have cookies.
Wait a minute. Wow, you get an A. Hang on.
Thank you.
I didn't even
never
teach
gotten
you
an
that.
A in one of your courses before.
Can you imagine if you were special person of the month at my realty class?
Yeah.
And you were like, here are cookies, and that's all I needed to do. Really.
Do you know what would be the best is that it was just me, but like you would definitely wait to give me special person of the month. Like I wouldn't get it right away. You would wait to decide when I got special person.
I'd be like, I'll see you in December. Also, you're the front of the line and the caboose.
Yeah, true.
So they tried to sell the house forever, and they fucking couldn't get it together. And I think probably because at this point, that one neighbor had gone around and spread the rumor so intensely that it was haunted. And also imagine if you've already been telling people it was haunted, and now your nephew lives there, so you have like real artistic license to be like, no, I have like an inn. It's really fucking haunted.
Right?
So at one point they tried, I think Quentin stopped by the house and tried to set down his like sunglasses or something on the table. Then while he was there, got angry that nobody was interested in the house. And so he said something along the lines of like, I'm tired of taking care of this place. And his items that he had left there went missing. Oh. So now it's really fucking with him. Wow. Also, as they were trying to sell the house, interested buyers kept saying no because even though they really liked the place, once they got there, they felt something was really off.
That's not good.
So they felt chills. They felt like they were being stared at. They felt anger and hatred. Some of them like lost balance or fell over or felt like they were getting pushed. People on the stairs would get really, really, really fucking sad.
Oh.
Also, people would hear door slams. They'd hear footsteps. There was problems with electronics. Apparently, there was a cat that would just, like, hiss and vanish.
Okay.
And then there was also the apparition of the soldier in the hall who would appear. So
goodbye for that. Goodbye. I don't like it.
So there was a lot of reasons for people to be like, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
One time, actually, this is my favorite one. Again, A for creativity. This makes me think that it has to be the neighbor spreading rumors because I never get original little tidbits. Yeah. At this point, like every ghost is opening cabinet doors and knocking on the walls, and that's it.
But I feel like also it's so random and specific that like
the plywood or the 2x4s.
Like why would you make up that? I mean,
what was the other original thing? The fucking pennies.
The pennies.
And then apparently the recliner in the home would open itself up and expand like someone was sitting in it.
That's really creepy. I don't like that either.
It just sounds like a really frugal carpenter lives there. Like he's just
frugal carpenter, yeah.
Carrying his pennies around, checking on his plywood, sitting on his Barcalounger.
Showing off his 2 cents.
Literally his 2 cents. His fucking cat hates you. And so anyway, that was just another thing that happened where people saw the recliner open up on its own, which I gotta be honest, even if that was just like the spring is broken or something, it would terrify me.
That would be bad because that's like what the person is doing exactly. Like you can see how they would be moving.
Or what they want you to think they're up to.
That's true too. They would be putting on a show for you. Ugh.
Because if I thought like, oh, I've got a ghost that just likes to sit in a chair, I would be more likely to buy the place versus like, oh, they're opening up the recliner so you think they're sitting there, but they're actually like up to something else with their pennies on the stairs.
Yeah, they're propping their feet up so that they can sneak past you and put all your wood planks upside down or something.
Bingo. Also, apparently there was one prospective, yikes.
I was like, a prospector?
A prospector. Someone brought their pet to the house while they were looking.
That's
too.
actually smart, I feel like. I think it's
genius.
Yeah.
Bring a child or an animal.
Yes, a child for sure.
Well, someone brought their dog, and the dog wouldn't even enter the building.
Goodbye. Turn around.
That's how you know.
And if there's cookies in there, like, then you know something's really up.
You gotta leave. Here's what you do. You bring a dog, and you bring a child. Mm-hmm. In the kitchen area, you leave a big plate of, like, rotisserie chicken meat for the dog. And for the kid, you leave, like, a bunch of candy. Mm-hmm. And if neither of them touch any of that food on the counter during your, like, tour of the house, that's a bad fucking sign. They were too uncomfortable to eat their favorite foods. Yeah. You know? I'm just saying, like 101 for my realty class.
I'm taking notes. Don't worry. I know there's pop quiz at the end of the week.
Well, you got the cookies thing, so you already hit your, you already got your extra credit for the semester.
Yes.
So the next person to live there, eventually they finally fucking sold this place, was a pilot or a former pilot. His name was Ed. And
like how you say that with such disdain.
I was like, I want him to have like a really cool name.
Because you were really into Big Tony.
I fucking love Mr. Chocolonely had a lot to say.
I know.
Speaking of Mr. Chocolonely, just really taking two topics and taking the widest bridge to them possible. We were talking about Tony Chocolonely, or at least I fucking was. Another reason, this isn't why I drink, but this is why Allison drinks this week, is because I've recently gotten back into the depression phase where I'm obsessed with Cake Boss, which great. I feel like we all at some point were in love with either Cake Boss or Ace of Cakes.
Absolutely. And
Cake Boss is more fun to me because of how like bizarrely like he's just I would love to go to a therapy session with him just to he's just like so like bombastic and loud and in your face. I mean, they're like kind of doing like we're a stereotypical like Italian family, like we're like loud and we shout with each other and all that. And so and they're always like mia familia. And so I fucking love it. It just gets me going. And poor Allison, since I got into this, I've really not actually seen her this annoyed with me in a long time, but I can't stop pretending I'm the Cake Boss.
Oh my God, stop.
And so every time in the last like 3 days, Allison does anything, any fucking thing. I'm just like quoting the Cake Boss and not even realizing it.
What are you shouting?
She could do something very wonderful or very terrible, and every time I'm like, now that's Hoboken style, baby.
Stop it. You are very, very annoying.
And then if she does something bad, I'm like, oh, that's not Hoboken style, baby. That's not Hoboken style.
Oh, I would probably punch your head.
And so, last night, Allison, like, something happened. But for like the last 3 days, she has wanted to completely twist my head around on my neck and just end my life. And anyway, I was thinking Tony Chocolonely, and in my head every time I kept thinking like, the boss. That's the boss right there. Mia Familia. Okay.
I can't do it anymore. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
That should be Allison for the last 3 days. Last night I was like, can we watch The Boss? And she was like, absolutely not.
Also,
absolutely not.
Is there like a way where I can grade you? I know it's your class, but I'd actually probably rather grade you this time.
For a second, I thought you were going to say, is there a way I can time travel 5 minutes back into time where I didn't know about this?
I'd rather travel 5 minutes. I'd rather travel 5 hours ahead so I can already start forgetting it. But
now that's Hoboken style, baby.
Stop it! I hate that. I don't know why I hate it, but I hate it. I hate it so very much.
It fits with everything I do. Every time you either love it or you hate it. That's,
I know that some of our like diehard M fans are going to be like, I love it. But like, imagine living with this behavior
a lot
in
of
your
people
partner.
I do tell Allison a lot. I'm like, do you realize like other people like would kill to be sitting next to me hearing that's Hoboken style, baby?
Oh my God, you're such an...
And she's like, you need to get the fuck over yourself. And I'm like, why? I'm the boss. What are you talking about?
Do you know how many people would kill to sit next to me, M. Schultz? Oh my God.
Not M. Schultz, the boss. I want her to know that there are other people out there who would in unison shout, now that's Hoboken style, baby, instead of complain about it, Like, someone out there would. So just, I'm putting it out there.
Do you want me to start reading our one-star iTunes reviews and see, like, do a tally of how many people love it and hate it?
That wouldn't be Hoboken style, baby. So I don't know about that.
No.
Okay, moving on. Quickly. Anyway.
Quickly? Okay, I thought we passed the bar for quickly. But yeah, let's move on.
Okay, sorry. I saw Tony Chocolonely and I was like, that's the boss right there. Okay, so... Where are we? Oh, yeah, Ed. See, that's why I said Ed like that.
That doesn't even, it's nothing. None of it is anything.
I was like, with the amount of serotonin that's been flooding through my veins with Italian names lately,
yeah,
I heard Ed and I was like, okay.
Okay, why don't I just turn into Eddie Murphy and we'll do a little Dr. Dolittle business and then you can realize how much you would hate to be next to me.
That would be Delightful. Oh my God, wait, can you be Eddie
You and
Murphy?
I feel like I'm like, oh, I would hate that. And then the second we were in the same apartment, we'd be like, oh, like, that would be the fucking worst. Like, I act like I'm so annoyed, but like, I know full
Christine,
well I would be immediately involved. Like, the way you
That's-
hate lemon, but still are very involved with lemon, it would be the same way.
Christine, that's why I'm 100% ignoring all your weird, like, your like side jabs in honor of Allison, because I know the second, if it were you, me, and Allison in a room, the first half of the night, you would be on her side and be like, you're so fucking annoying. And once like a couple glasses of wine kicked in, you'd be like, I'm the boss. You would just be sitting there with like your empty bottles of wine and me and Allison on either side. And you'd be like, Mia Familia.
Poor Allison. I'm sorry. I tried really hard. I really did.
Oh God! If we were roommates, it really would be dastardly how many weird characters we would have.
Oh my
ourselves.
God, we would be the fucking what's his
I
name?
mean, look at us.
Akon?
We have a fucking podcast, and we've got Xenon and Lemon and all this bullshit.
We never stop ourselves. What's his name? Akon? No.
Oh, Trey Songz?
Trey Songz. What is wrong with me?
Akon is the alien that Elizabeth Clare was dating.
Yes, that's correct. And the one who like featured my homecoming. Yeah. So we would be like Trey Songz, but probably worse because we would just be shouting in fake Italian accents all the time.
Much worse. Anyway, I appreciate you trying to defend my girlfriend, but we know whose side you're on.
I tried.
That's Hoboken style, baby. Okay, so you can't stop it. You're gonna go downstairs later. You hate it because you're gonna fucking do it later.
Blaze
and
and
I know
Allison
you're going
are
to.
gonna finally make their pact and like.
Don't even explain that it has to do with the boss.
won't.
It's just from now on, whenever Blaze does something really great or really wonderful, just slip it in, see what happens. See what he does.
I'm gonna try it and see. So I'm very fortunate in that I found Canva a long time ago, like when we first discovered the podcast, started the podcast.
Discovered it within ourselves.
Yeah, along the way. And thankfully, Canva helped me, who was not a pro, look like a pro because I was able to put out merch for us. I was able to make social media designs, and people didn't realize I was just doing it on Canva by myself. Basically, Canva Pro is the easy-to-use design platform that has everything you need to design like a pro. So if you are a professional designer or you're just getting started like I was, Canva Pro can help you boost you and your team's productivity, creativity. It's quick, easy, and affordable.
No matter what you're creating and sharing, Canva Pro has everything you need in one place, including a collection of over 75 million premium photos, videos, audios, and graphics. Plus, Canva Pro comes with time-saving tools that simplify and speed up the creative process, and you get all of this and more in just one Canva Pro subscription.
Design like a pro with Canva Pro. Right now, you can get a free 45-day extended trial when you use our promo code. Just go to canva.me/ATWWD to get your free 45-day extended trial.
That's canva.me/ATWWD, canva.me/ATWWD. No matter what 2021 brings, whether that's sandwiches or just good luck or nothing bad at all, fingers crossed, you can spend it creating something meaningful with Skillshare's online classes because time is what we make of it.
Yes. So Em and I have both been really into Skillshare for a long time, especially during quarantine. I've really like picked up a system, like a schedule, taking classes. So recently I've started taking a class called Productivity for Creatives, build a system that brings out your best, and it's taught by Thomas Frank. And it's basically about like if you work in a creative field or even just have a creative like hobby or activity that you do, it's just a way of like helping you structure your productivity, structure your day around that, and be the most successful creative you can be. So I'm loving it so far.
Skillshare is also incredibly affordable, especially when compared to pricey in-person classes and workshops, and an annual subscription is less than $10 a month.
Explore your creativity at Skillshare.com/drink and get a free trial of premium membership.
That's Skillshare.com/drink. So eventually Ed, he got the house from Tony Chocolonely, and he could only renovate the house at night because at this point so many people knew that the place was haunted that they were disturbing him all day long that he could only get shit done at night.
Okay. Great.
You know what that's not? Hoboken style.
Shut up!
But so Ed, this is a quote from Ed. He said, "I don't believe in the paranormal, but since I've been working on this place, I've felt very uncomfortable, like someone's watching me." So even he's in on it.
I love when they're like, I don't believe it, but get this. It's like,
right.
Okay, come on. You gotta like at one point admit that you believe it, right?
It's like so you don't believe it, but also
wink.
You're paranoid. Got
it.
Ed also said one of his experiences when he started seeing things himself, he said, When I pull up in the driveway at night, I see a man looking down at me from the window.
I would never enter that home again.
No, why would you?
And why would you go inside?
He is dressed in a brown jacket and a bow tie, like from another time period. That sounds like Doctor Who, but also
or Dr. Dolittle.
Or Dr. Dolittle. But like, if you saw a silhouette of a man in your home, why would you then go, do time for bed? Like,
I don't believe in the paranormal, but sometimes I see this guy in my window.
Especially, by the way, if you don't believe in the paranormal.
True.
Because if you don't believe in the paranormal, then you have to think that what you're seeing is a grown human in your home.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's none of it's good.
None of it's. Ed doesn't sound like he's the sharpest. So Ed also reported seeing the ghost of Gerald Betis, aka Dog Boy, in the house. Apparently, he would see Gerald staring at him, and every time he saw Gerald, he would also feel a cold wind on his neck. That's not Hoboken style.
It's certainly not. I don't know what it is, but it isn't that.
Here's a quote from him about seeing Gerald. He was this huge, I guess.
Oh, wait, yeah, show me. He was this huge.
Somewhere around from here to here.
What shitty journalist was that? Me being like, how big was he? This big. Okay. Like, who wrote that down? Oh my God.
Okay, so imagine my arms like stretching as far as possible. He was this huge. And a weird looking cat human. So that's interesting that he sees a cat, not a dog.
Oh wait, maybe he meant he was this huge, weird looking.
That checks out.
I'm not sure, but
no,
maybe.
I think that's what happened. That was some Amelia Bedelia reading right there.
No, I followed right along with you. I was like, what an idiot.
They shouldn't put a comma after huge if they don't want me to pause.
You're right. That's the problem. You're right.
He was this huge, weird-looking cat human. There we go. With long brown hair, creepy eyes, and great big arms and hands. He walked right in front of me and glared at me. And right after I saw him, he walked through the hall and disappeared. Sometimes I would hear something slam or someone walking across the floor, but I couldn't see anything, and I knew it was him letting me know that they were there.
Oh, God, and letting me know that they, like, no.
But also this fucking guy, I don't believe in the paranormal.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so what, like, a cat dog man is just hanging out in your house, and you're like, what a kooky neighbor.
At that point, it's weirder to believe that that's just a random...
Yeah, at some point, you're making yourself look worse. Yep. If you're like, that's just my roommate I didn't invite in.
My cat person.
My cat man. So, in 2005, that's when... I don't know if that was when Casper investigated the house or if that's when Karen is just talking about their investigation. But Karen was the lead researcher with Casper investigating the house at this time. They did 2 investigations. The first time they picked up a lot of cold drops and electromagnetic spikes that had no explanation. Karen also said that they were able to track something through the kitchen, and one investigator felt something touch him. And this is a quote from Karen about the first investigation. When we went outside at one point to get some items from a car, we looked up and saw a face peering down at us. Okay, so the same window guy.
Oh, yeah.
All 3 of the team members witnessed the face in the window, but it was confirmed that nobody was upstairs at the time. Ugh. The second investigation, they brought a medium with them who allegedly made contact with Gerald, and the medium says that Gerald cursed them and told them to get out. So that at least confirms or coincides with people saying they've seen someone screaming to get out of the house. Yep. They also caught videos of orbs flying into walls and unexplainable flashes of light, and they got all of those on videotape, but eerily, all of those tapes went missing after the investigation.
What?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Also, there was, just to finish this off, there is one article. There were very few articles about this, by the way. So, just to, like, put it out there was only like 4 sources that we used, but there's an article called the Quitman, Arkansas Ghost Story, and it was written by Barbara Duncan. It's an online article, and people are still commenting on it even though it was written back in like 2010 or something. And one of the comments from years ago says, "The stories are true. I grew up in Quitman. My dad went to school with the Dog Boy, and that house has scared me since the first day that I saw it before I knew about the legend. They have been maintaining it to sell." I guess this was at the time when like they couldn't sell the house.
Yeah.
They've been maintaining it to sell, but no one wants to live in that haunted house. The lady across the street, the neighbor, could tell you a thing or two about that house, and next time you go up there, you should bring your dog to see if he'll even go on the porch.
Ah! She'll tell you a thing or 8,000 about it. Yeah.
She'll tell you a thing or a lifetime or the entire town history. Or about her nephew who's moving in soon. 2 years later, Barbara, the author of the article, commented on the article.
Oh, that's fun.
I like how they're still checking, like, years later. It's like, oh, let me see if I need to respond to anything. So Barbara commented on their own article saying that the person who knows the real story of Dog Boy, quote, would be the next door neighbor, who is psychic. Well, I didn't see that coming.
Wait, hold on. What?
It's a last minute twist. Who is psychic and knows all about the inhabitants of the house. She is very interesting, is how that's ended. Which I can confirm.
The least shocking statement of this entire story.
Only a couple years ago now, people are still responding to either Barbara's comment or to this article in general. And one person said, quote, Gerald was a mean person. I know of him throwing and hitting Floyd, his father. Then he would abuse his mother, Aileen. I've seen her many times with a black eye at our reunions. The @ is the internet @ sign.
Oh, of course.
Things had to be his way or no way, but I was never afraid of him. He would barely speak. Okay. But, so even in 2017, people are still commenting about how they themselves knew about Gerald and can confirm all of the awful stories about him. And even if no one can for sure say, like, how dark his behavior got in that house, no one is surprised that it has at least some negative energy there. So,
yeah.
Anyway, that is the Bettis House featuring the Dog Boy.
That was fascinating. And you think, like, when people are commenting in 2017, like, I knew him, I feel like that's so rare because when you hear about haunted houses, it's always like 300 years ago or like, in the 1800s, this woman, and like nobody can say, oh, I knew her. She was really fucking weird. But like the fact that there's a ghost that people know from real life is wild.
It's very, I was just saying this to somebody, and I mean, there's like those regular tweets and memes that are always coming out about like, oh, how come you never like hear about like a 2007 Britney Spears ghost? Yeah. But yeah, it's always interesting when people are still around to be able to confirm people that are said to haunt places.
I think that's so interesting and like confirm their behavior in real life to add to the story.
I also wonder if ghosts from like the 17 and 1800s that we all seem to see all the time, I wonder if people gave a shit about them back then, or do you think like in like the 1800s, the ghosts they were talking about were like from the 1500s, and they're like, why don't we ever see any modern 1800s ghosts?
Any modern ghosts, yeah.
Maybe like you have to go through like a 300-year purgatory before you can haunt again. And that's why we haven't seen any 2000s people yet, you know?
Oh, man. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, why don't you ever see a ghost playing the Victrola, That's what I always wonder.
Daily, I would say, I think about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we do see modern day ghosts, like for when people...
Like when people tell us their personal stories, I feel like it's so few and far between because you never hear of like known haunted manors.
Yeah, but I feel like that's because it hasn't had enough time to like build that reputation. Like I'm sure in like 100 years, all these places that are currently like haunted but not like huge stories might become more famous. I don't know, because like an 1800s ghost has had many hundreds of years to build up its rep.
Also build up its energy. Maybe you get stronger and more noticeable over time.
Or that.
I don't know. Sometimes I like to get really fucking existential with it and like really like I think I was meant for the stoner community, and sometimes with my own thoughts, because I'm like, that is a real mindfuck. But I like to include time travel into the afterlife sometimes and think like, what if I'm being haunted by my own ghost and I don't know it?
I think that too. Like people from the future.
Yeah, but then I'm like, if future me had the ability to haunt me and let me know what was up, I would have fucking done it by
You'd
now.
know it by now. Yeah,
I'd be like, you're right, hello. But I do think about that, or like my own guardian angels, or when I feel like someone like protecting me, maybe it's like future me looking out to make sure I stay alive long enough to like do whatever I need to. Anyway, we could talk about that shit forever.
And we will.
We
but
sure will.
I guess
we
have
should
a show
start.
to do.
We should start a second podcast where it's like the after show of, and that's why we drink.
And that's why we drink after dark.
We'll shop it.
TM.
Anyway, there's the Bettis House for you.
Love it. Okay, I have a story for you, Em. This is the story of a serial killer, and his name is Sean Vincent Gillis. So
Okay.
he's not as well known as you would think once you hear the story. I feel like you're going to be like, that's odd that I don't recognize this person, because he's
really?
pretty prolific. But I'm going to tell you anyway. So I got a lot of this from the True Crime All the Time podcast. Also, Crime Watch Daily posted a helpful video. And as far as like content warning, there's brutal violence and sexual assault, as per usual.
As per usual, yep.
Here we go. So we are going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and the year is 2004. So
okay.
This is pretty wild. Within a 10-year period, Louisiana had 5 active serial killers.
What?
Wait, know.
Hang on, say that again?
Within a 10-year period, Louisiana had 5 active serial killers, like,
wild.
operating. And that's not a hugely populated state. I mean, compared to other,
Is
bigger
there
states.
like a cultural historical reason for
No,
that? Like,
honestly, I'm not sure. And it was so recent that like I wonder if anybody's even had the time to like properly study it. But
yeah, I was trying to think, and I was trying to think of like, did something happen in Louisiana that like messed with a lot of people, or like really like
Katrina, but that was in 2006, so never mind.
I don't know. I not to say like hurricanes cause serial killers, but like
We're gonna die on that hill. That's our new thesis
actually
statement.
That I heard that from the neighbor down the street from the Bettis House.
Yeah, she's psychic, by the way. So
she knows what she's doing.
She knows.
Yeah.
So on February 27, 2004, 43-year-old Donna Bennett Johnston was found in a drainage canal south of Louisiana University. She had been murdered, raped, and strangled, and her body had been badly mutilated. Her breasts had been slashed, and she had a butterfly tattoo on her thigh, which had been cut out of her flesh.
Oh,
yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Rough start.
Okay.
Rough start.
Yikes. Rough start. Yep.
Times
okay,
1,000. A task force was established on March 3rd to look into Donna's murder, as well as a few other women who had also lost their lives in a similar fashion. Some of those women had been linked to another serial killer named Derek Todd Lee, who's a much more famous and well-known serial killer. I don't know if you recognize him, but I guess I just run in those circles, unfortunately.
You definitely, I'm sure you're right that they're well-known, but I'm just like, I like to think of myself as like the grandparent who you're teaching the apps to, but like I'm just like the clueless one in terms of serial killer knowledge. Oh, it's always shocking when people are like, "Oh, well, you've got to watch this true crime thing," or "What are your favorite true crime documentaries?" And I'm like, I don't watch that stuff.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point of our show, right? Like, is that you are the expert in ghosts and I do the true crime, and we tell each other and we don't know about it, I
know, but it's still surprising how many people ask me for like true crime suggestions, and I'm like, I got nothing. The whole point of the podcast is Christine educates me in real time. I got no
like,
fucking
Cake
clue.
Boss, check it out.
I'm like, I could tell you it's Hoboken style, baby, but that's about it.
That's as far as I go. Yeah. Yeah, hit me up, folks. I've got all sorts of recommendations for you. I just started watching Dexter for the first time, so that's fun.
Oh, I saw you post about that. Because of you, I would suggest Crime Watch Daily, because you mention that shit a lot.
They post a lot of it. It's like super duper informative. So it's like very, it's like very, and also I'm trying to think of the name of the other one. Yeah, but it's very informative. So if you're like looking for like serious info, I think the more entertaining, like Night Stalker was really good and terrifying, but also like keep you on the edge of your seat type of show. That's a new one on Netflix. Anyway, just hit me up on the IG and I'll tell you. So anyway, they established a task force. A lot of the women who had been killed in a similar fashion were victims of Derek Todd Lee, who was like the more well-known and actually was named the Baton Rouge serial killer. When certain cases couldn't be linked to Derek Todd Lee, who had actually been apprehended the previous year for his own murders, fear started to grow that maybe there was another serial killer on the loose. maybe they didn't realize at this point that, like, yeah, maybe 4 more, actually. 5 total, but...
Well, to their credit, I don't blame them for thinking,
No.
like, there's no way there's 5. I mean, it's like, I feel bad for them in hindsight when, like, they had no clue how bad it was about to get. Yikes.
It truly, and, like, especially since they were killed in similar ways, it's almost like... You'd be like, no, please don't tell me. Like, somebody's doing this in almost the same way. It's
I don't want to know. Please. yeah.
No, we already got the guy. But, yep, it was somebody different. So what ruled Derek Todd Lee out is that the female victims that they were finding now had DNA underneath their fingernails that did not match to him. But, of course, when they put it through the database, it didn't match to anybody who had their DNA in the system. Ooh. So, eventually, through some snoopery... which we'll get into, on April 28th, they found their murderer, and his name was Sean Vincent Gillis. So here's the story of good old Sean. Okay. Sean Gillis was born on June 24th in 1962 to Norman and Yvonne Gillis. His father suffered from alcoholism and had several mental illnesses, and this caused like it had a deep impact on his relationship with his wife and his son. At one point, he even held a gun to his son's head when he was a young child. Whoa. So just a lot of trauma in that way. But Norman put his family's safety first and actually admitted himself into a variety of mental institutions. And although that was to keep his family safe, it ended up leaving his mother to raise Sean by herself. And she had a job and, had to make money to raise her son, but also... it's just a lot for obviously a single mom to do. Sure. So despite the tumultuous relationship with his father, Gillis was really close with his mother and his grandparents. So for all intents and purposes, he had like a pretty decent upbringing. Like there wasn't anything, I mean, obviously there were some traumatic incidents, but like there wasn't anything, it wasn't as traumatic as you see a lot of serial killers like you can see very clearly from day one. Right. Like
this more or less was an average upbringing comparatively.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't have been able to look at that kid and go like, uh-oh, it's like something terrible is going to happen.
He was one of the people where in hindsight, everyone's like, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. So at 10 years old, Yvonne and Sean moved to a nearby neighborhood, and she worked really hard to get Gillis out of public school and into a Catholic elementary school. And although she really thought the world of him, a lot of the neighbors and his schoolmates thought he was a bully. But that, unfortunately, wasn't the worst of it. So Gillis and 2 of his friends actually became interested in satanic worship. Oh. And there were a couple...
Well, that's us on the playground, am I right?
I know. And it actually is because, interestingly enough, they didn't, like, do it, but they went and watched other people do it, which I feel like would be you and me to be like, I just want to see what would happen.
That's exactly my comfort zone. I'd be like, listen, I'll go hang out with a coven. I don't want to totally be involved in it, but, like, I want to be on the bleachers if y'all got some of those. Conjure
Em and I are bringing snacks. Yeah. Okay?
Oh, I would love to be, like... Actually, can we just... consider ourselves now like the PTA of Covens.
I was going to say, I'm the soccer mom, you're the soccer
I want to bring the orange slices to keep your energy up.
And by orange slices, you mean gushers, and I'll bring a wine bra, and we'll be the soccer parents, but the satanic...
If your coven needs, like, sports parents to cheer you on...
We're in it. We're on it.
I'm fucking down. We need jerseys, because we make a good team.
We make... Wink, wink.
But yours would look better than mine because you're out of my league. But I mean, like, other than that, like, whatever. Just if you happen to be a witch and you're going to like your weekly meeting soon, pitch it.
And I'm not saying that that's satanic. I'm not saying that those are the same thing. To be clear, we're not saying if you're in a coven, it's satanic.
I feel like we happen to be associated with more covens.
We're more comfortable with like a healthy witchcraft lifestyle than like.
We just have a better chance at making it as the PTA members.
Valid.
So I'm switching it over to Coven.
Got it. Okay. Because, this was definitely satanic, which I'm sure Em and I would love to go and watch as well, but probably be a little more scared of.
I just out of pure ignorance, but I would love to be like the PTA who really like the member who educates the shit out of myself.
Yeah. So we would definitely be this person, but they'd watch locals engage in the rituals of satanic worship, and they smoke pot together. So that was like the extent of kind of his, that and like bullying. He was like not a great kid, but it wasn't anything like truly hurt. Like he wasn't collecting dogs or whatever the hell that other guy was doing, Gerald.
He was just a PTA dude. He was just a dad currently.
He's just a pot-smoking dad,
It turns real sour real quick.
It does. It certainly does. So, however, everything kind of went south, as Em said, the following year when Sean became close. Okay, so Sean's father kind of came back into his life when he was 17, and he hadn't been hadn't had a relationship with him in a long, since he was a kid. So he and his father became pretty close. But that all kind of turned sour when Sean discovered his dad's collection of photos of naked men in various sexual positions, and he and his father just kind of went their separate ways, and he was no longer interested in a relationship with his dad. After graduating from high school, Sean got a job as a clerk in 7-Eleven stores, and he spent pretty much the rest of his life working as kind of a clerk. That was sort of his go-to job position.
Clerk life.
Living that clerk life,
we all do.
He apparently hated it, but that's just what he did. So he said instead of working, he preferred sitting in front of his new computer to watch porn, but not just any old porn. So he was a very big fan of porn that featured rape, death, and dismemberment of women.
Yikes.
Yeah, so that was his go-to, and as you can imagine, his obsession with pornography affected his job, his other responsibilities. He would skip work, he would miss an entire shift because he was just addicted to watching this violent porn on his computer. And remember, this was a while ago, so this in the 90s, so this is like AOL dial-up days.
I was gonna say, how did he get access to this kind of stuff back then? Because I mean, I don't need to know, but
you know what they say is that technology is always driven by humans' desire for porn and sex. So even with VR, the first thing they do is figure out how to turn it into porn and sex. I mean,
can confirm.
So the second internet existed,
wait a minute, hang on. I said can confirm as
what?
What I meant is I'm aware that one, sex sells, and two, Allison and I are watching that show Upload where literally we just watched a whole episode about virtual sex suits. Yeah. And my mom, when I got the Oculus Quest and I lost my mind at the technology of it, my mom was like, I wonder when the sex industry is going to take over. So
they did already. Yeah. I read an article about it. It's fascinating. It's the first thing they do because that's just how humanity, what we're driven by, I guess.
Anyway, when I said can confirm, I did not mean I know all about that.
We heard about your vanilla lifestyle. Don't worry.
Thank you. I felt the need to defend my vanilla-ness very quickly.
Yeah. But basically, internet existed. There were definitely porn sites. It was just old school. You had to not.
You had to watch it line by line as it uploaded.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, do you remember that?
I sure do.
Hated that. The lines would. Oh God. Okay. Not of porn, to be clear. We're not talking about porn. We're talking about Neopets. Okay.
When I was a kid, when I was a teenager, yeah, but not the same kind that this guy's up to.
Our own experience.
But right? I do remember the picture having to upload and
God.
It was the family computer, so that took a lot of courage, and also your mom could walk down any second
always,
and need the computer.
The desktop. I mean, really.
And you're waiting for the image to upload, to download. And it was just the worst experience.
To pull an old person phrase, kids these days will never know how easy they have it with their cell phones.
With their cell phone porn.
That they can watch porn on their cell phones without any sort of
I watched my mom teach my grandpa about cell phone porn, which sounds really wild. But he was shocked at technology. He was like, "Wow, you could do anything on the internet." She was like, "I mean, you could literally get
your mom is." I like how your mom's first instinct is
always
let's discuss the porn part.
She's the common denominator in the fact that sex sells. But my grandpa, when an iPhone first became a thing, he was like, wow, internet. And my mom said something I mean, people literally have porn in their pocket these days. And he was like, oh, they don't have that. And she was like, give me your phone. I'll fucking show you.
She's like, wait, let me log in real quick.
Linda.aol.com. No, but I just remember watching my poor, sweet, innocent grandfather's eyes just completely flood and just with
Linda,
shock.
You're always ruining everyone's innocence.
She really wants people added to her team, I guess.
Man, well,
we really derailed. I'm so sorry.
No,
so sorry.
It's all good. I'm just saying, it was old school, but he spent all his time on the computer watching really fucked up porn, to the point that he risked his own job. So in
Got it.
1992, Sean's mom, Yvonne, took a new job in Atlanta. And when Sean said he didn't want to go with her, he was an adult at this point, so she left him behind to live on his own. But she continued to pay his mortgage on the house that they had lived in. So he stayed in the house and she moved. And sometime after his mother left, according to neighbors, he began to act pretty strange. So, for example, some people saw him yelling at the sky, cursing his mother, like out in the street at the sky. Really bizarre behavior.
Huh. Okay.
Just the kind of thing where you like close your blinds, you know, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but you close them, but like you keep one of the
you
blinds
keep,
open.
Right, you keep your eye through the blinds, yeah.
Keep the blind closed, but the window open so you can still hear what's happening.
And your cell phone recording, because like I'm going to show Em later, and we're going to
there
talk
it
about
is.
it.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of disturbing events happening after this. He was caught peeping into a female neighbor's house, and when asked what he was doing, he claimed he was looking for his cat, which is, I imagine, some form of clever wordplay. I'm not sure.
I see.
But after that, he would bang on people's doors late at night. At one point, he was standing outside banging on garbage cans, and the police came. And when they arrested him, police asked, "Why are you making such a ruckus and banging on these trash cans?" And he said, "Because I don't have a girl." So he was desperate for, I guess, female affection. He was
really leading with that, it seems.
I guess, yeah. I mean, not that this is explaining much of the behavior, but that seems to be his MO.
His go-to, his public go-to.
Yes, his public excuse, right? So
what was that sound?
What sound?
You didn't hear that?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
What was it?
It sounded like a huge, like something dropped, or I don't know.
Oh,
let me know if you heard it.
Maybe I banged my cord.
No, it was something like somewhere else in the room. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
No,
anyway,
I didn't hear anything. So let's see.
So he would always say he was looking for a girl, or not having a girl is the reason why he had all this fucking free time to do other stuff.
While he was banging on the trash cans and cursing the sky. Yeah. 2 years later, he met a woman named Terry Lemoyne who worked as a convenience store clerk, and they met through a mutual friend. And Terry later remembered that her best friend walked in and said, "Sean, this is Terry. Terry, this is Sean. Y'all have everything in common. Y'all should get to know each other." And this best friend reckoned they would both get along because of their love of sci-fi and Star Trek, but she didn't quite realize how
Poor Terry.
much they had different. Not just
how many things
alike.
they also didn't have in common.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of outranked what they did have in common. There's only so far you can go with the shared love of Star Trek, is what I imagine.
That's what I always say.
I know. You say it all the time, actually. It's getting really
One day
annoying.
people will listen. One day.
One day. So their relationship was actually platonic because, as Terry remembers it, Sean didn't believe in sex and had been taught that to be fair, he went to Catholic school. So, like, yeah, we are taught to not believe in sex. So maybe that's part of it. Sean didn't believe in sex and had been taught that it was a nasty thing and he shouldn't do it. And again, obviously I don't know, I'm saying again, I haven't said this yet, but there's nothing wrong with being in a platonic relationship, of course, but in the context of he was watching like really violent porn pretty much all day, every day.
Right.
It's just like a telling red flag, I guess.
Sure.
So eventually Terry moved into Sean's house with him, the one that his mom paid the mortgage for. And she continued working at the convenience store. He would drive her there, pick her up. They spent a lot of time together. And when they moved in together, that year was the year that Sean Vincent Gillis killed his first victim. And to be clear, it was not Donna Bennett Johnston, the one I mentioned earlier with the tattoo. There were many more before her. So
Great.
I know. So let's start from square one. His first victim was actually 81-year-old Anne Bryan.
Aw.
I know. It's pretty dark. She lived at an assisted living facility across the street from his work in Baton Rouge. And she was an artist, musician, and enjoyed playing bridge with her friends. And he entered her apartment on March 21st, 1994, via her front door, which Anne left open because she wanted to allow her nurse easy access into her place.
Oh, that's
Isn't
so
that
sad.
so sad? And it's like, she's never had a problem. Her nurse comes in and helps her out. It's the 90s. She plays bridge. She's an artist. And, like, he just waltzes right on in.
It's also really sad when, like, obviously, if anyone is ever attacked, it's I'm not trying to compare situations here, but it is especially awful when it's someone who is more or less, helpless and that like they keep the door open. They probably aren't moving around a lot.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it's not to say that like, you know, younger people I feel less bad for or anything. It's just like
they're more vulnerable. Like,
yeah,
you know? Yeah. No, I totally get it. And like, you're just taking advantage of the fact that this person is a vulnerable member of society and is
who's
trusting.
doing nothing wrong
Yeah.
and is like just so sweet and like has a great reputation. It's just ew.
And is
gross.
trusting of society, and it's just really fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
according to Sean, he initially only entered her home in an attempt to rape her, but when she screamed, he panicked and slashed her throat and then stabbed her around 50 times in the head, genitals, and chest.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wow.
So the sheer amount of wounds to her head nearly decapitated her. And
Oh my God.
she was almost disemboweled. That's how many times he stabbed her.
Wow. That's some fucking anger right there.
Really fucking brutal. And he
Wow.
very, very intentionally stabbed her breasts, genitals.
Yeah.
Like, intentionally. So
Yeah. Wow.
that tells you something. And this was his first murder. So he had never even done anything like this before.
Oh my God.
So
Wow.
police, I know, it's just
Goose cam.
a terrible start. So police at the time had no clue who was responsible for this. And meanwhile, Sean was at home just basically becoming more and more obsessed with violent porn that depicted rape, death, dismemberment. And he even showed Terry, his girlfriend, like the porn he was watching. And she was like, no thanks. I'm not interested in that. And on the one hand, it's like, you know, just because someone's interested in something online doesn't mean that they're acting this out in real
Right.
life.
Right.
But it was definitely a red flag to her of like, okay, I guess let's keep having this platonic relationship because I'm not interested in that kind of
Right.
sexual behavior.
Sure.
So she knew that he watched this, and some people say like, well, then how did she not know he was a serial killer? But it's like, those don't necessarily equate. Like there are plenty of people who watch fucked up porn and don't go out and slash 81-year-old women to death, you know?
Yeah. I just because someone
And
is
don't
into...
say can confirm because...
No.
Just kidding.
But you know, yeah, that's definitely... That porn exists because someone's into it.
Yeah, there's an
but
audience.
There's an audience. It doesn't mean that that's something they actually do. Maybe it's just their own mental escape in some
Just
way.
their
Who
thing,
knows?
right?
Everyone's got a thing.
Everyone's got a thing. I tell you what. So just ask Linda.
Just ask Linda. Truly.
She'll tell you.
She knows it all. I'll tell you
She
what.
knows it all. After the murder of Anne Bryan, Sean wouldn't kill for another 5 years. So I guess he got his first fix and then waited another half a decade.
Interesting.
I know. So on January 4th, 1999, the body of Catherine Hall, age 30, was found murdered and naked at the end of a dark rural road. And according to a documentary on Crime Watch Daily, the most horrifying fact was that she was found on her back in a kind of balletic pose, so like ballet-like, like kind of dainty ballet. A balletic
awful.
pose next to a dead-end sign, which was thought to be his sort of sick sense of humor.
Oh, no.
Isn't that gross?
That's fucked up.
Yeah. And one more horrifying detail about the discovery. According to Detective Barry White, he had sex with her after she was dead, which I'd like to insert my own commentary, which is this is called rape, not
Right.
he had sex with her, but sure. Okay. He raped her after she was dead. Very close examination of her mouth showed that there was a pubic hair with a root ball, which is like, sounds disgusting, but it's like the root of the hair.
Right.
It had the root ball, which allowed for full DNA testing. But
Well,
that being
at least
said,
there's that.
Yeah, so they had a DNA sample, exactly. But unfortunately, he wasn't in the system, so there was no way to kind of tie it back to him. But again, they knew it was not Derek Todd Lee, so they were like, well, shit, it's somebody different.
Yeah, it's such a small silver lining, but at least they got DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yikes.
So another 4 years later, well, you'll see, because it seemed like 4 years later, but it turns out later on he admitted to other murders that occurred within that 4-year period. But at the time,
Whoa.
it seemed like another 4 years later, after the discovery of Catherine's body, according to Detective... Oh, sorry. No, wait. I'm reading the wrong bullet again.
Look. At least I'm just impressed you can read, so.
Oh, Thanks. I've worked really hard in your class, so I appreciate you teaching me.
I know it. That's why in my reality course, all of the manuals are picture books, because
Oh, right.
I wouldn't expect anything else.
They're also scratch and sniff, which is super fun.
They sure are. They sure are.
Okay. So anyway, seemingly another 4 years later, the killer struck again. So on October 9th, 2003, Johnny Mae Williams, a mother of 3 and an avid baker, was found face down in the woods decomposing. And it was actually a little boy who found her. He ran to tell his father, and at first the father said, "Don't play around." But when the father went over to see what the boy is like insisting he finds exactly what the boy insisted he found, which is a dead body. And according to the police, Gillis had posed her looking for the shock factor. So this is so gross, I'm sorry. Her legs had been sliced down the back and the front. And she had her arms folded under her. So when she was rolled over, her arms fell out and her hands had been cut off. So they like rolled out of the body.
Oh.
Isn't this just like...
That's really...
next level gruesome. I mean, this is like the Dexter show I'm watching. Like, it's so fucked up.
And psychologically, I want to know like what the message there is, and like what's causing him to want to go, quote, above and beyond in such a sick way.
Yeah,
you know?
and you know what? Later, he actually wrote a letter. I don't think I have it in my notes, but later he actually wrote a letter to the best friend of one of his victims, and it might have been her, actually. And he said, I don't know what in me it like drives the need for this kind of like violence and sadism. Like, he literally said, I'm not sure what, like, he recognized it almost like, I can't figure out why I have this need, this urge.
He's like, I also don't fucking get it.
Yeah, wow. He's like, trust me, I don't get it either.
It feels, I'm no fucking expert, but it feels like he wants to stand out and be different from anyone else that's done this stuff. I mean, to be that, I don't want to really use that word, but to be that extra. Yeah. And the posing and have like the shock value dead end sign, and then to like plan ahead so when they roll her over, her hands, you realize she doesn't have hands. I mean, it just feels like, I want you to fucking remember me. This isn't your everyday murder, you know?
Well, you're completely onto something, because he did have like a hang up. He had like an insecurity about Derek Todd Lee, because he was compared to him, but was like always wanted to outdo him, and was always scared that Derek Todd Lee was going to outdo him.
I'm pretty sure I'm B.D. Wong from Law & Order then. I mean, I just...
If you were B.D. Wong, I would have a much greater obsession with you. Sorry, Em. Unfortunately, maybe it'll develop over time. But
fingers crossed. In that moment, I was like, that psychology degree
you fucking hit the nail on the head.
Thanks, Mom, for all that college support you gave me.
You gotta watch Mindhunter. That's like... You gotta watch it. I know you don't watch the true crime, but it's so good.
I know.
Okay, so in any case, where are we? Right, the hands fell off. So even though her hands were cut off, an inspection of the body, a human hair was found on her, and they could tell it belonged to a Caucasian male. So it seemed like it was the same person who had struck several years before. And then he would strike again, thankfully for his final time, on February 27, 2004. So now we're back to Donna Bennett Johnston with the tattoo. Okay. So 2 residents were looking for their dog when they stopped at a bridge and saw what appeared to be a white female lying face down in a ravine, which would later be determined to be only blocks from Sean Gillis's home. It was Donna Bennett Johnston mentioned earlier. And it became apparent to police that this was the act of the same killer of the 2 previous crimes. And as I mentioned earlier, she had a butterfly tattoo on her leg, and the tattoo had been like carved out of her leg, which is like sick. From the inspection, police knew that Donna fought her murderer, so they found his DNA under the fingernails of her right arm. And I specify right arm because her left arm was missing.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like each of these crimes is like so sadistic, but they're different. Like, he does something different each time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's definitely, and it makes me wonder, this is a really sick thing to say, and I'm not trying to sound funny, I really am not, but it sounds like he's almost going for creativity there. Like, it's like, and I mentioned it earlier, in that, like, he wanted to, like, stand out. Yeah. But it's almost like he kept having, like, he was almost in competition with himself by the end. Like, trying to be like, okay, how do I make
one-upping.
this one more shocking than the last? How do I make this one more shocking than the last? So,
well, and I also wonder if it's like him trying to figure out his own like perversions or his own desires, because I feel like over time he developed this MO. And like with this murder, they later found the left arm at his home, and he had been using it to masturbate. So like for that, he used it fully for himself. So I wonder if like over time he was like, you know, what would be great for me this time, or, you know, developing like.
That's interesting. I was going to say too, like when like the tattoo was missing, I was like, did he save it? Like, did he use it as like
know.
Because, you know, a lot of murders will, like, take something from the crime scene. Yeah. Trophies. Or I was even thinking, do you think he goes into each murder knowing already what he's going to do? Or on the fly, he's like, okay, I'm going to take your arm off? Or did he plan that? That's a good question,
because he left hairs on the body, so he wasn't, like, super duper careful.
Yeah, it feels like impulsive.
He left DNA. Yeah. And, but yeah, you wonder if he planned it ahead, because with the arm, too, that he brought home, he painted the fingernails and like gave it a manicure. Like, it's just gross. Ooh. And then he used it to masturbate. So who knows what the fuck was going through his head. BD Wong, are you gonna help me? No? Okay.
I got nothing. BD Wong, this is the stumper. This is why BD Wong had to take like a second senior year or something.
Like, you mean go to the FBI and get a PhD? Okay.
After his victory lap, he had a little success. Yeah,
got it. Okay. After his victory lap. So according to police, okay, wait, let's see, where am I? So they found Donna. Her tattoo was missing. Her arm was missing. So now police have 4 women who have been murdered and horribly mutilated, and they know it was probably the same person because of the MO and geography. And as mentioned before, police are armed with a lot of DNA evidence from under the fingernails. So when they run the DNA again, it doesn't match anybody. It does, however, match the DNA from the other 3. So they're determining all 4 of these victims were killed by the same man.
Got it.
So investigators return to the crime scene, and they are like looking around to see if anything around where they found the body could give them any sort of clue. And there, pressed into the mud, was a clue that they almost missed, and it was a tire track.
Wow.
I know. Okay. Something I would have stomped right on over that tire track.
Oh, I would have rolled over with my own car and mixed it all up.
We would have driven over the tire track.
Be like, now back to my hunch, as John Mulaney would say.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't want to get out of the car. I'm just going to drive over there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy. So they find this tire track in a cow pasture, and it was a Goodyear tire, and thank God they made a cast of the tire and found that it was a very rare tire that was manufactured very briefly and barely ever sold.
Wow.
So, I know. That's like so
fucking lucky. So lucky.
Exactly. It's not just like some Costco special, you know. I say that because I'm getting new tires next week because my car doesn't know what snow is.
Interesting.
It's really good for me and my anxiety.
Make sure you get the most commonly used tire just so nobody can ever find you. Also, the person who made the first like rubber mold of a tire track for a murder case must have felt like a fucking genius.
Yeah, be like, let me get some my kid's doing a what are they called when they put plaster
a paper mache project.
Let me get some of that glue and put it in this tire track.
Can you imagine, like, I like to think that the person who did the first casting was probably like his dad didn't believe in him for his art passion. Yes. And then he was like, I'm gonna change the fucking world, and he solves a murder because
he wanted to go to art school.
So much. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's such a good point. I love that. TM. We're gonna write a story about it, a movie.
Yeah, perfect. We're gonna end it where it's the Thanksgiving dinner where he tells his dad what he's been up to at work.
His dad's so impressed by this case that has been solved, and then he finds out.
His son solved it.
It was me all along.
It was me all along. You'll see. They'll all see.
You'll see. They'll all see. Wow. Now he sounds like he's becoming a murderer. That'll be the second film in the series.
That's the spinoff. Yeah, and then they use his own tactics against him to solve his murder.
I see. They're like, he loves that plaster of Paris. Also, pretend you heard nothing because this is spoiling the entire film series. So don't worry.
Oh! I thought you meant spoiling this. I thought you meant spoiling this exact story.
I'm sorry.
I was like, not only am I BD Wong, I'm also a best-selling author.
You're that psychic neighbor who knows exactly what's about to happen.
I have so many great qualities this week.
You are so disturbingly many different personalities.
It's the truth.
So, okay, they find this tire track, and it turns out that there are only a couple hundred sets of this particular tire that have been sold in the area. So
Wow.
they have about 200 people on a list, and they're like, go through every one of these people and rule them out until we find the guy. So the task force goes and talks to everybody who has purchased these tires within the last 12 months, and Sean Gillis is number 26 on the list.
Wow.
I know.
That's also very lucky that they were able
He's
to
pretty
like,
close to the top.
shave down so much time, because they could have had to do that another like 7 times or something.
I wonder if it's alphabetical, because G is pretty early in the alphabet. I wonder. I don't know.
Interesting.
Though. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
So they ask them to go talk to everybody who bought these tires and get a DNA swab from their, like an oral sample, an oral DNA swab from everybody. So ultimately they interview Sean. He's one of the people on the list. And sure enough, he's called in to be interviewed. And he was unemployed at the time, and police remember him being very soft-spoken, very intelligent, according to officers who interviewed him. He had no criminal history. He came across as a mild-mannered science fiction geek and was even wearing a Star Trek USS Enterprise belt buckle at the time.
So, yeah, he was a fucking nerd.
I was going to say, I thought it said t-shirt, and I was like, okay, I wear t-shirts that, a belt buckle. That's next level fandom. Yeah, that like you have to go out of your way to find a belt buckle.
For all my fandoms, I don't have a single belt buckle.
Me neither.
So
man, we're such fair weather fans.
That guy's really, he's a committed
hardcore.
sci-fi nerd. Yeah.
So, so blah, blah, blah. They interview him, and at first they were like, okay, I guess technically, like, he hypothetically got away with it. There's nothing on first impression that was like a huge red flag, until he says to officers, as he's like getting ready to leave, he tells them that he actually knew Johnny May, who was one of the victims. And they were like, oh, you do? Why?
Let's whip out our handy dandy notebooks and write that down.
Oh, that sounds important. And he said he used to pay her to clean his house sometimes, which was actually true. And so they were like, that's odd. And he even admitted then to being near Donna Johnson's particular crime scene. And when they asked why, he said, oh, my tire tracks actually might be in that field. And they said,
it's like he was almost trying to like excuse himself before they could give him a chance.
That's what I get the sense of.
Like he's trying to like own up to some stuff. That way it looks like he's not shocked and guilty later.
So if they can prove they're his tire tracks, he's already given a quote explanation as to why they're there.
He's beaten them to the punch.
Yeah, which like, don't say a word, folks. Like if they're asking you these questions, if you didn't do it, if you murdered someone, let's tell everybody by all means. But if you didn't, just wait for your damn lawyer. Don't say a damn word. So he admitted that his tire tracks might have been there. And they were like, why? And he said, oh, well, I had some beer and needed to go to the bathroom real bad and knew I wasn't going to make it to the house. You know what I'm saying. My bladder was, how they put it, Cheech and Chong put it one time, my eyes are floating. That's how I felt. So
nice.
They're sure. Yeah. So they were basically like, okay, he has weird excuses that he's giving us before we even blame him for anything, that he knew he knew one of the victims, and he may have had tire tracks right near the second body, like a little fishy. So they're like, red flag, but they can't necessarily keep him because they don't have proof. So they finally got a warrant. They searched his car, and they found blood in the car. And don't worry, he explained it.
I was not worried because he seems like he's really good at explaining things.
Do you have a guess? Like, just take a fucking guess at what his excuse was for why there was blood in his car.
I want to say something as simple as like a nosebleed, but
you're on the right track.
He was flossing too hard.
That's
what?
a good one.
What? That would, if you ever find blood in my fucking car, I promise
it's
because
because
I was flossing not even that hard. It just
my
all
gums
of a sudden,
just fucking suck. Yeah,
my mouth just exploded at the thought of flossing. That's what happened.
So he told police that his wife had been on her period.
I was okay. I did think it, and I did not want to say.
I knew.
Okay.
I had a feeling you were on the right track with that, because it just sounds like the dumbest excuse on the planet. And I meant his girlfriend. Sorry, not his wife. But he said, About a month after we got the car, my girlfriend got her period. She had her period, and it just soaked through the front car seat. I mean, it's like I said, it looked like a massacre in that front seat. And
nice. Great.
Cute. Charming.
Well, also, like, I feel like that's not good enough. The reason I was gonna not say nosebleed is because, like, can't you just check that so quickly, like, match the DNA?
Oh, yeah. And don't worry, there were more questions before they even checked, because they said, well, why is there blood all over the back seat?
Uh-huh.
And do you have a guess as to how the blood got in the back seat?
She was ashamed and threw her underwear in the back or
no,
something?
That's a better excuse than he gave, which is that the wind was really strong that day, and it
Good night!
It blew her blood out of her vagina and into the back seat.
So first of all, we're just gonna ignore defying physics, and then
defying physics.
Went through the car from the window, scooped underneath her, and then wasn't strong enough to lift a human body, but definitely wiped her clean like Cinderella in a chimney. Just got rid of it all, and it all ended up in the back.
Well, you're actually on the right track, but you didn't totally get the whole physics of it. So what happened, let me explain it like Bill Nye would. So what happened is,
Please.
She had her period. It got all over the front seat, and then suddenly the wind picked up, right? And the gust of wind, she was surfing the red wave, as I like to say, on my baseball cap.
I know it.
Oh, here it is. Let me put it on real quick to explain. This is my handy dandy period hat. Okay.
And what's her name? La Roja something?
Surfer Rojo. Surfer Rojo.
Okay.
Surfing the red wave. So essentially, right, she starts bleeding. The wind picks up, and it goes out the window and then back into the window. It goes into
so it's not going... Okay, so it's not actually going over the middle console.
Exactly. It's going loop-de-loop around the window. Right.
It's doing like half a figure eight. Back into the car because...
A little semicircle.
That's fucking stupid.
That's so fucking dumb. He said...
In that moment, if I were the cop, I would have been like, turn around, please. Like,
I would have been like, I quit. This is so dumb I can't even hear anymore. I quit the force. Goodbye.
I would have been like, just put your hands behind your back.
Just walk into jail now, please. He said that his girlfriend's period blood flew out the front seat window, then flew back into the car to land in the back seat. So the police immediately called for a search warrant of his entire house, and they called the crime lab to prioritize processing his DNA swab. The lab worked super fast, and in the time they had to wait for the test results to come back, the police were worried that Gillis might run or might kill again. So after several excruciating hours waiting, the phone rings, and it's the crime lab, and they say, it's him. So they're like, got him.
Bada bing, bada boom. Now that's Hoboken style, baby.
Yeah, the boss has spoken. So they call a court judge to get a warrant for the arrest, and on April 29, 2004, at 1:20 a.m., they burst into his house to arrest him. A SWAT team enters to find Gillis in bed with his girlfriend, Terry. As they enter, Terry's obviously startled, has no idea why a SWAT team is in their house. She begins yelling, "What's going on? What's going on?" And according to Terry, Sean just looks at her, shrugs his shoulders, and says, "Sorry, honey bunny."
Good night.
Which
Ew.
apparently is a quote from Pulp Fiction. Which someone says in Pulp Fiction, which I learned from True Crime all the time because I'm not cool enough to remember that from the movie.
Can you imagine being this fucking woman, by the way, in history, where like now she has to be like, "Yep, I'm the one whose period flies around like a fucking bird."
I didn't even think she's like, "You said what?"
That's right. I'm the bloody honey bunny. That's me.
Bloody honey bunny. That does sound like Pulp Fiction.
Put that on a hat in Spanish. Hang on a second.
So then one of the SWAT team says to Terry, "Didn't you know you're living with a serial killer?" Which is like, okay, shut up, guy. And she remembers just laughing and saying, "Boy, do you have the wrong house." Because she literally didn't believe it. She was like, "What are you talking about?" So later, once Sean had been taken into the police station, while still in a state of disbelief that the police were accusing her boyfriend of these heinous crimes, she went in to speak to him, and she said, like, "Sean, how did you kill 3 people?" And he said, "Oh, there were 8. And so she apparently like collapsed on the floor, and he said, "Sorry, honey bunny," again.
Again? Okay, it's like the joke didn't land the first time.
Yeah, nobody got it, bud.
No one got it, bunny, or whatever.
Honey bunny. So then Terry was like so shocked because at first she's like, well, now I feel like shit because he's murdering these women and I didn't even have a clue, you know? And so in retrospect, she does remember that once she was in the car with him and he had like the car had an awful odor in it. And she was like, what is that smell? And he told her he had hit like roadkill, like he had hit an animal. And she went back to bed and he went and cleaned the car. And it turns out later he had been driving her around with one of the bodies in the trunk.
That's just the worst. I mean, I've no personal experience here, but it feels like hindsight, knowing that you were so close to a really fucking awful situation,
and just like sleeping next to him, you know, like just
the second I found out about that I was driving around in a car with a corpse, I'd be like, aha, well, thank God my therapist is on speed dial because here I go.
Thank God my menstrual blood can defy gravity because it needs to take me away from here.
I'm about to ride it like a magic carpet on the way to therapy.
Red surfer, right? Surf it on out of there. Surf the wave out the window, I tell you.
Truly.
So on another occasion, she noticed that he was racking up a lot of miles, like on the odometer, and she wanted to know who he was driving around with, thinking he was cheating on her. But as police later said, he wasn't cheating; he was hunting, and that's how he got all those miles.
That's not the word we need to use.
It's not a good word. So, of course, as soon as he's interrogated, like, the truth comes spouting out of him like a fountain. He is so proud of his achievements. At one point, he even says, I'm sorry I hurt people, but I would do it again, which is like, so you're not sorry. Okay, cool.
You mean, I'm sorry, honey bunny.
Yeah, honey bunny. Wink.
So he didn't even show any shame?
No. I mean,
wow.
He said a couple times, like, oh, yeah, I feel bad I feel bad that I did that, but not genuine. Like, I don't think he was even lying. I think he was just like, oh, yeah, that wasn't a great thing to do, but he didn't really care, you know?
Like, he was thinking, not a cute look.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's one of those things where it's more like, that sucks that I got caught and now I'm in jail.
Wow, big bummer for the year.
Womp womp, yeah. So he also said, if anything in my useless life comes out, help the little girls of today, not to be the premature corpses of tomorrow, which is like, why don't you help the boys not make the girls premature corpses of tomorrow? How about we go from that angle, idiot? And so when delving into the 4 women he was accused of killing, police realized that this is only the tip of the iceberg when he began naming other victims. So he admitted to the 4 they had arrested him for, and then he admitted to 4 more. So they were Hardy Mosley Schmidt, who was found in St. James Parish near a bayou on Highway 61 in 1947. Sean Gillis had hit her with his car as she was jogging through Pollard Estates on her morning run. Okay, I said 1947. I think I meant 1997. Sorry. I was like, how? No.
He's also a time traveler.
Yeah, I guess so. 1997. This is what he did. He saw her jogging. He like tracked her. Like he like hunted her, for lack of a better word. Then he fucking drove her down with his car, jumped out, and I'm gonna tell you now, which I haven't told you yet, how he murdered them.
I hadn't even thought of it.
It's very scary, and it really is gonna give me nightmares tonight. He had industrial strength zip ties, and he would put them around their neck and tighten it.
No, Christine, that's it. I'm done.
Empathy.
Goodbye.
This is why I couldn't say it up top. I was like, I have to like gather my strength.
That's okay. Because
at first you hear, oh, he killed them with zip ties, and it's like, okay, but then you think about it, and it's like once it's tightened, like you can't untighten it. You know what I mean?
Even if he fucking regretted it.
Even if he changed his mind, or even if she ran away, like it's tight.
Yeah. Oh.
I know. So it's
Christine.
fucking awful, and they were industrial strength, so they weren't coming off.
Hey, guess what? I have a new fucking fear.
Me too.
Thank you.
I was listening to the True Crime All the Time podcast, and I was like, why would you do this at 9 a.m? I was driving Gio to daycare, and I was screaming, like, how could you put this thought in my head?
I'm like making weird, like neck ticks, trying to keep my neck expanded. Like, keep trying to go, like,
I know.
Like, just to, Christine, that's so really grotesque. The fact that, like, I mean, like, in my head, in this moment, I still can't even process that happened to a real person. In my head, it's still being treated as a, hey, wouldn't that be terrible if someone actually had to deal with that? But someone has had to deal with that.
Exactly. It's almost like when you watch, at least when I watch, like, Dexter or whatever, I'm like, okay, or Criminal Minds, and I'm like, this is so heinous, and then I get in my head and start thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, it's a TV show. Like, it's just a TV show, but this is just the worst, because you're like, oh, no, this actually happened to several people.
God, that's just... Oh, I hate this.
And the people that he also targeted, a lot of them were sex workers, and he would describe them as people that society wouldn't miss. And so that's how he kind of decided he was going to victimize people. And that's how he often got them into his car. So just another fun fact.
Got it.
But yeah, so the zip tie thing is probably the worst thing I've ever really...
that really is just so terrible.
Really
oh my
bad.
God. I can't stop thinking about it.
It's like a new fear that's going to keep me up at night that I didn't know I had. So, sorry, I had it, so now everyone else has to have it. So he picked her up off the side of the road after he hits her with his car, grabs her, puts the zip tie on, tightens it as quickly as he can, and
again?
puts her in. This is just the first one on the list. I'm just describing how he did it. So yeah, he hit her with his car, grabbed her, put the zip tie on, tossed her in the trunk. And that's the one that the girlfriend was in the car and smelled something later.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, woof. Joyce Williams was the second person that they hadn't known about. She had gone missing November 12th, 1999, but her body was found behind a levee in Baton Rouge in January 2000. According to his confession, Gillis picked her up on Highway 19 and rode around for a while, singing along with the songs on the radio. He then brought her to Rosedale Road in Port Allen and killed her with another nylon zip tie before bringing her to his home, where he dismembered her, cut off her nipples, and ate them.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you, but it's so bad.
Christine.
I'm sorry.
Christine.
Sorry. You're
Christine.
holding it like a comfort blanket. I'm holding the sound.
I am. I had a bunch of
Fabric.
panels. So while this one's been sitting here, I've been trying to angle the other one. So I've like.
Is that what's happening?
That's what's been happening. But now
I
this
thought you
is
had
just
like an iPad. I was like, oh, I was playing Best Fiends over there.
No, I've been trying to like make a 360 wall around the microphone. But
I see.
Yeah.
It's
now
become
it's
a
just
comfort blanket.
now it's just my Thunder Buddy at this point. What the
Thunder
fuck?
Buddy.
Are you kidding me? Okay, well now we know my oral fixation, and now all I can do is imagine the consistency of a nipple.
Okay,
between
well
my
now all I
molars.
can do. God damn it.
I'm sorry, Christine.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
You're right. I'm in the wrong. You're right.
Also, cutting off nipples is something I think about a lot, and like just terms of pain.
Yeah.
I know that's so weird. I think about like nipples falling off of bodies way more than is probably mentally healthy. But like the fact, and it's been like a secret fear in my head, and now that you just said that out loud, I was like, oh, so someone has made that a reality.
Oh,
Holy
certainly.
fuck. And then chewed on them like they were little pieces of gum or something, and then went gulp.
Yeah, he also practiced. That's the thing where I was saying earlier, like he was practicing different things, trying out different things to find.
He
his,
certainly fucking was.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, like that's not even Musk experimental. That is just like
that's
beyond.
very much illegal homicidal experimentation.
Yes, but I'm saying like it didn't even cross my stupid little mind until you said someone has chewed on. That's worse than Ed Gein using the nipples as a tool.
As a
At
belt.
least this guy was using them as a fucking movie theater snack. Oh my God.
Woof. Yeah.
Take it. Please continue.
It's
Don't.
really heinous. So I'm just going to keep talking because, this is fun.
Nipple chewing. For
Cannibalism,
God's sake.
he tried it out. Why not? The third person was Lillian Robinson, who disappeared January of 2000, but was found March of 2000. He had also killed her with a industrial zip tie and then brought her to his home before dumping her into the bayou. And then the fourth one, the last one that they hadn't known about, was Marilyn Nevels, 38, who was murdered in October 2000. Gillis picked her up in Lafayette on his way to visit his godchild. How charming. Yeah, cute. When she got into his car, he reached for a zip tie, but this is I'm sorry. Okay.
Christine, I hate this. Christine,
I'm sorry.
I've never had such a guttural reaction against a story of yours. You had me at nipples, you had me at fucking zip ties, and now whatever you're about to do to me, I don't like it.
Okay.
What? Just say it.
It's the same sort of... Okay. He reached for a zip tie, but she fought him and escaped from the car. He chased her across a field and then hit her with a piece of metal rebar, and before she could get away, he wrapped the zip tie around her and tightened it. So it was like she almost got away, and then at the last second he got that zip tie, and it was like at that point you're screwed because even if you run away, you can't get that off.
Late.
Yeah,
it's too late. Wow,
it's just terrible. So he brought her to a car wash, laid her on the ground while he cleaned his car, and yeah,
all these fucking little activities, like what, he was just humming to the radio,
like
he's
legitimately,
just washing.
It's
get
heinous.
out of here.
It's heinous. He put her on the ground, took her home, then took a shower with her corpse before bringing her to River Road and leaving her body on top of a levee. And the saddest part was that until he was arrested and admitted to it, not one person had ever reported her missing.
That's sad.
It is sad. And that was like what he explained was his goal was he would target sex workers who he believed would be the least quote unquote missed by society, which is so sick in its own way. But yeah, nobody ever reported her missing. And a lot of these women had children and families, obviously. So, and were further traumatized by the media portraying a lot of these women. And not all of them were sex workers, but the ones who were, the media obviously like leaned into that too. And that was extra hard on the children who were like, she was a person, like,
right,
you know?
Right. Yeah.
So he also talked police through his ritual as soon as Terry left for her night shift, which was, you let me out on the street, I'll find somebody before sundown. He would hunt women, kill, mutilate them, and then use their bodies for sexual gratification. He'd look for sex workers, people with drug addictions, anyone who looked helpless or willing to get into his car. And then once inside his car...
Or not, because then he would just fucking run them over.
Or not, yeah. Or they would run away and he would drag them back to his car. Once inside his car, he'd use a white nylon tie lock, like a zip tie. And he said, we're talking 2.5 feet long, maybe 5. So like mega industrial zip locks. So
like giving himself as much line basically as he needs to really
pull
just...
it.
Motherfucker.
And then he said, and then I slip it on her head. Then he explained casually to the police what he'd do once he brought the bodies back to the house, which he had a lot of time because his girlfriend was at work. With Donna Johnston, he said he held her, bathed her, held her to himself. And then he said, you know? No, I don't know.
No, cannot relate, finally.
Cannot relate. And then he said, I mean, we were taking a shower, you know? Why did he keep saying you know?
Well, he also keeps calling people like little bunnies or something.
Ugh,
so
gross.
I don't get it.
Yeah, and so like I said, he gave a manicure to the severed hand. And while Terry was at work, he even performed an autopsy on Joyce Williams' body on the kitchen floor.
Yeah, you know.
You know?
Just fucking casual.
You know?
You know.
After discovering this, when police sprayed the baseboards of the kitchen floor, the cabinets lit up like a Christmas tree with luminol of blood spatter.
Yeah.
Gillis's computer was analyzed, which obviously had plenty of fun evidence on it as well. He had taken photos, like trophies, of his victims' bodies when he staged them so that he could take them home as trophies. He even took a picture of the victim in the trunk of his car, and in the photo was his own goddamn license plate. Fucking idiot.
Okay, guy.
Yeah, smart. He had 45 digital pictures downloaded to his computer of Johnson's mutilated body alone. And on the another thing they found on his computer was a document called DTL, which stood for Derek Todd Lee. And that was the other serial killer who was active around the same time. And in this document, he would store news and information about Lee's crimes. And he later went on to allege that he feared being outdone by Lee. So he was like tracking him to make sure he could one-up him. Like
doing recon to make sure that like, oh, he hasn't outsmarted me or outdisgusted me yet.
Yep. Yeah. Like, I want to be remembered, like he said. In the interrogation, they also broached his upbringing to be like, where does his necrophilia come from? And your obsession with like raping people after death. And it turns out he actually had a sexual fascination with his own mother, which seems to be a common fucking thing in these stories. And when asked whether he had ever thought about having sex with his mother, he responded with, yes, of course. You know?
You know.
Say, you know. But yeah, I had the same thought. He responded with, yes, of course. She's not an unattractive woman, even if you see her and meet her now. I thought if she passed away, y'all would find me in bed with her. Yeah,
oh
dude.
My God. And his mother is still alive to hear all this bullshit come out of his mouth, too.
Isn't that great? Yeah, she's like, wait, what?
Oh, my God.
And she thought he was, like, an angel.
And imagine that poor... I don't know if they were roommates or partners or the platonic relationship he was in.
Oh, his girlfriend.
They were dating? They're dating? Okay. Like, imagine that poor woman who now looks back and says like, oh, well, you definitely have the wrong house. This guy's like nothing like who you think he is. To then hear things like, oh, so we were platonic the whole time you were thinking about banging your mom and a bunch of corpses. Okay, got it.
Oh my God. I just, at that point, be glad he didn't want to have sex with me. I'd be like,
I know. I'd be like, dodged a
fucking bullet.
fat bullet. Yeah.
Totally. Especially when she's like, I'm not interested in this violent photo you're showing me.
Right.
Don't want to practice that with you. No, thank you. Sean Vincent Gillis stood for trial July 1st, 2008, and while in court, even more evidence emerged. There was a letter, like I was saying earlier, where he wrote to a friend of his final victim, Donna Johnston, and Tammy had been, her name was Tammy, and she had been corresponding with Sean while he was in jail, and in his letter, he like wrote out a confession of what he had done in detail, and he narrated Donna's murder to her, which is like...
Can you imagine? I mean, God damn it. It's
so fucking dark. And he said, your friend died quickly. She was so drunk, it only took about a minute and a half to succumb to unconsciousness and then death. And then signed it, yours, oh so beyond sorry, Sean Vincent Gillis.
So beyond sorry. I so beyond don't believe you. And also, like, what was the goal there? Was he thinking the friend would like be proud of him, or like was he bragging?
Brag? Yeah, I don't get what the point was, because he doesn't sound fucking sorry, and it's not like anybody would think, oh, she's gonna enjoy this confession I'm about to write her. Like, she'll feel better. It's like twisted. I'm not really sure what the point was. So who knows if he was just trying to like fuck around more and get more attention. I'm not sure. But so that letter, on top of everything else, gave them first-degree murder without any shadow of a doubt. So with the overwhelming evidence, the verdict was undeniable. He was charged with the murders of Catherine Hall, Johnny Mae Williams, Donna Bennett Johnson. He was sentenced to 3 life terms, and a year prior to the sentence, he also pleaded guilty and was convicted in the killing of 36-year-old Joyce Williams. So to date, he has been charged and convicted of 7 of the 8 murders. Police are still trying to gather more evidence to charge him with Lillian Robinson's murder. And final note, he's now 58, which surprises me because to me, he feels much older, but I'm thinking like this was in the 2000s, so it's not even that long ago. But so many of these stories are like older, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's only 58. He's at Louisiana State Penitentiary. Sometimes, this is the best line. Sometimes he's known as the other Baton Rouge Killer.
What a perfect dig at the ego. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so because Derek Todd Lee is known as the Baton Rouge serial killer, so he's known as the other one, which I'm sure just ticks him off to no fucking end. So as for Terry, she actually still lives in the house they shared, in the house that she moved into, that was Sean's and his mom's house back in the day. So she still lives there, which is like, all right, you do you, man. I mean,
wow,
that'd be tough mentally for me, but she's still there. She still has Gillis's car, which is named Buffy. So let BD Wong handle that one.
Yep. Okay.
I shall.
You froze me in that moment. I was like, I got nothing.
Yeah, so Buffy is still there, sitting in the backyard, rotting away, and that is the story of Sean Vincent Gillis, the other Baton Rouge serial killer, as I like to call him.
I love that. I love that they gave him a name.
The satisfaction.
Yeah, come on, they should also really nickname him like the shittiest one, or like the one that like no one loves or cares about.
Like, what's his name?
The unimpressive one. Yeah,
the boring, unimpressive guy.
Wow. The 1-star rated murderer.
1-star serial killer. Well, and interestingly enough, in that same letter, he actually mentioned too, like, it was only until 10 years ago that I ever felt an urge to harm another person. So who knows what the fuck happened 10 years before that, like, made him decide all of a sudden this was his new plan, because until that point, it's not like he'd said he never had fascination with murder growing up. He never had he never killed anyone or hurt anyone. Until he was that age, and then he was like, I can't help it, I'm gonna do it.
Wow. Well,
weird.
All right.
Anyway,
great story. I mean, it takes a lot to make me cringe, and
it does. I feel pretty, I mean, as fucked up as it is, I feel pretty honored that episode 209, I gotcha.
All it took was the chewing on nipples. I got instant goosebumps.
Yeah,
on that
actually,
one.
I'm getting it now still. So yuck.
Like, it's nice to know, like, if like, I don't even know.
Where are we going with this sentence?
I don't know. I froze halfway through and I was like, even I don't know. So never mind. Thank you for the trauma. I can't wait to call my therapist.
Thanks for the trauma. Yeah.
Thanks for the. We'll chop it. We'll chop it.
We'll chop it.
Anyway, also thank you for those who chose to stick around after that. You had the option to not listen.
Yeah, this is not our fault. You stayed, and it's not our fault.
Jealous of you. If I would have turned off the show by now. But thank you for listening to another episode of And That's Why We Drink, and we appreciate you putting up with that.
Yes.
That was great.
You can find us at ATWW Podcast. Our website is andthat'swhywedrink.com. If you want to buy tickets to our live show, our virtual live show, which is going to be super fun, go to onlocationlive.com/ATWWD, and we'll be reading creepy stories that you sent in. So can't wait.
And you can send them don't send them into our normal website or our normal email address. Send it to ATWWD from our couches at gmail.com. And those will be the stories that are picked from or selected from.
Yeah, and I believe the 22nd is the deadline for that.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Woo, thank you everyone. And hopefully this was the most traumatic part of your week. See you next time. And
that's
why
we
drink.